you were satisfied that was proper for Senator Gloria to be in the House. But, Mr. Speaker, it is a house of debate. It's a house of order. It's a house where we borrow from previous rulings from the House, from the Speaker, and so on. Mr. Speaker, I want to join my colleagues in saying that perhaps it's an issue where it may be necessary for you as a Speaker to avail also that particular ruling, so that these members, Mr. Speaker, will be able to have a chance. And even those who members of this House with a legal mind can be able to apply their minds to this. Mr. Speaker, sir, this House was heard by Kenyans when the debate was ongoing on the motion that was brought before this House. And the same public, Mr. Speaker, should also be informed as to the reason why Senator Gloria finally came. Mr. Speaker, nobody should in any way, directly or indirectly, deny our colleague Senator Gloria the benefit of the judicial system in this country. So that, Mr. Speaker, if it is truly pursued within the framework of the law and also our procedure here, then she will enjoy the benefit of the law. And, Mr. Speaker, it's a house that we need to be careful so that, Mr. Speaker, our reputation as a house in this Senate will be recognized by our citizens, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at Article 159, as I conclude, it talks about judicial authority. Judicial authority is derived from the people and vested in and shall be exercised by the courts and tribunals established by or under the Constitution. Sub-Article 2, Mr. Speaker, says, in exercising judicial authority, the courts and tribunals shall be guided by the following principles. Justice shall be done to all, irrespective of status. Mr. Speaker, that is the principle set in Article 159, that justice shall be done to all, including Senator Gloria, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it is an issue that we need as a House to canvass, so that, Mr. Speaker, even when we have a similar situation tomorrow, we'll have something to refer to. And so, Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of faith in the House, in your leadership, and this should not be used to diminish the value, the status of this House, Mr. Speaker. So I want to join my colleagues in saying it may be necessary, Mr. Speaker, for you as our leader, as a legal mind, to spend time and be able to allow us to benefit from the contents of this, of the judgment. Because members are asking, it was directed to who? We have not seen the pleadings. Who was sued? Who was the defendant? We know the plaintiff was Gloria. Who are the defendants, the parties in that suit, Mr. Speaker? Because normally, orders are directed to the plaintiff of a particular case. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Lastly, Senator Mungatana, and then I'll give you directive.
Mr. Speaker, mine was just to agree that, Mr. Speaker, you need to give us a well-reasoned ruling so that it can form part and parcel of the record of the House, a considered judgment, so to speak. And I won't take long. I just wanted to ask, and for those of us who are legal minds here, and when maybe you will consider this as you sit down to write your ruling, is a conservatory order given to maintain the status quo, or is it given to maintain the status quo ante. What was the status quo when the High Court was approached? Now, if the status quo was that there is a decision of the Senate, can the High Court use its powers to issue conservatory orders, not to maintain the status quo, but to revert to status quo ante, without the benefit of, inter partes hearing? Can it be done ex parte? So we want that to, maybe you can consider those issues as you write your considered ruling to guide us. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lastly, Senator Mazayo. Senator Mazayo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Nitajaribu kuongea kwa lugha ambayo itaeleweka, Kiswahili. Bwana Spika, kulikuwa na uamuzi wa muda uliofanywa, na uamuzi huu ulikuja hapa ukajadiliwa. Bwana Spika, uamuzi huu haukuwa wako, bali ulikuwa ni uamuzi ambao uliuleta hapa na bunge la Seneti likachukua uamuzi ule kama wao. Bwana Spika, maseneta wote waliokuwa hapa siku hiyo walijadiliana kama bunge la Senate, na hatimaye mwisho waliweza kupiga kura na kuona ya kwamba ni sawa. Hatua iliyotaka kuchukuliwa ilichukuliwa kulinganishana na ripoti iliyokuwa imeandikwa na Committee ya Powers and Privileges. Bwana Spika, uamuzi huo uliofanywa ulifanywa na bunge la Senate, haukufanywa tena na Kamati ya Powers and Privileges, bali bunge lenyewe. Kwa hiyo kama kuna kitengo chochote ambacho kinaweza kugeuza uamuzi wa bunge la Senate, ni Senate yenyewe ikae igeuze uamuzi wake ule uliofanya, lakini sio kamati nyingine iweze kukaa mahali na igeuze uamuzi uliofanywa na bunge la Senate. Hisia yangu ni kwamba, Bwana Spika, ingekuwa vyema ikiwa tutaona ya kwamba uamuzi utakaokuwa ukifanywa na Senate unaheshimiwa na kila mtu, ili bunge hili tusilivue heshima yake na tuliwekee heshima ili liweze kuheshimiwa na Wakenya wote. Bwana Spika, mimi naona kwa maoni yangu ingekuwa bora anayehusika katika hii aweze kuambiwa ajitoe nje, alafu bunge hili likae liweze kujadiliana na kuona kwamba hatua ya hii bunge ndio imechukuliwa, ili kuregea ama kutoregea iwe ni hatua ya hili bunge. Asante Bwana Spika.
Yes, Senator Kathuri. Let us dispense with this matter. We have more important matters to deal with that affect
Honorable Speaker, I wanted to maybe to ask whether you have CVs for the senators on your desk, because I can see all these are running friends who have been able to get the opportunity. Senator Chelagei, Senator Mazayo, Senator Cheptumo.
Just proceed, Senator Kathuri, please.
But
We have
also,
Osotsi
Honorable
and,
Speaker, to ask on standing on the 103, whether this matter that we are discussing, because maybe it might, it's a matter which is sub judice to, as we discuss it, it is very active. There's some communication which has been made by the court. I don't know whether to you or to the Senate. So whether maybe if we are quite in order to continue discussing this matter, Honorable Speaker. I'm not a learned friend or lawyer, but my small experience is advising me that maybe we really need to be careful, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Senator Hamida, kindly take your seat. And thank you for the many points of order that have been made in regard to this subject. Just to summarize all that has been said, I think the question that has been posed by all of you who've contributed is, do we or do we not comply with this particular court order? I think that is the essence of a points of order. And I want to give my undertaking that I will retire to my chamber. I will consider all the points of order that have been put forth by those who spoke, and I'll deliver a very well-reasoned ruling tomorrow. But there's some things that maybe I can respond to immediately so that you get to know. There has been a question as exactly who are the parties to this particular suit, pursuant to which this order was given. Now, of course, the applicant is Honorable Gloria Magoma Orwoba. The respondents are 5. The first respondent is the Attorney General. He's been sued. The Clerk of the Senate has been sued. The Speaker of the Senate has been sued. The Senate Committee on Powers and Privileges Committee has been sued. And the Senate as a whole, as an institution, has been sued. So these are the parties to this suit. Now, honorable members, allow me to retire to consider all the issues that you put forward so that tomorrow when we are back here, I can deliver my ruling on the points of order that you've raised. In the meantime, we will allow Senator Gloria. In the meantime, we will allow Senator Gloria to sit in. Next order. Yeah, Senator Osotsi, you are contributing on the Turkana issue before Senator Eddy brought the point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was saying the experience of Senate Mashinani in Turkana was very enriching, especially to the new members of Senate. We learned a lot. We experienced a lot. There were some challenges here and there, like those of us who saw the news bulletin, the locals complaining that they did not feel us, that we carried our own water, we carried our vehicles, we basically migrated in Nairobi to Turkana. They didn't feel us. I think that's a learning experience. Next time when we are organizing another Senate Mashinani, we need to localize it so that the locals feel us and the locals also benefit from us. The second lesson, Mr. Speaker, was that the issues that we canvass when we are in Senate Mashinani should also be localized so that we do not go to Turkana and start talking about national issues or we start talking about other counties. I think it should be planned in such a manner that we try and focus on the local issues in our committees or even in the plenary. The third lesson that I learned in Turkana was a kind of bipartisan spirit I saw. And I was just thinking that maybe we need to ensure that that becomes our norm here in Nairobi. And I saw that when we were discussing the primary health care bill, that we all came together and defeated amendments which we thought were clawing back the gains of devolution. So that is something that we need to really
Lastly on this, Senator Lomenen.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for this opportunity. Concerning your communication and the issue of Senate Mashinani in Turkana, I want to register or acknowledge my appreciation for all the colleagues, senators, and staff who went to Senate Mashinani. To me, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of Turkana County, most of the members or wananchi, Mr. Speaker, were very, very happy. Most of them, Mr. Speaker, they were watching and seeing senators in TVs, in newspapers. But that time, Mr. Speaker, they saw them live. They saw an example. People have been saying, Speaker, Amason Kingi, they saw it. And they remember, Mr. Speaker, when you entered Turkana County, when you left Turkana County, you left differently. And I want to register that, Mr. Speaker, when the members, senators, left the Turkana County, they were very beautiful, led by Osotsi and Nyamu, Senator Nyamu. They were very beautiful, and I think the Turkana community, Mr. Speaker, have appealed that if God gives another opportunity, Mr. Speaker, please you consider Turkana County again. Mr. Speaker, it is true. The Bible says we have all got short of God's glory. It is true, we did a march in that area. But something that I wanted to note, Mr. Speaker, the area is very fast, 77,000 kilometers square. 1 week or 4 days could not be enough. We just reached areas that are a quarter of the county with all departments or committees, with the sessions in the Senate. So, Mr. Speaker, I will wish next time, before we go the whole Senate, I suggest maybe prior the Senate committees will go there first, and then the all members, the whole Senate chamber will join, so that they get details.
Your time is up, Senator Lominan. Clerk, the next order, please.
Order number 3, messages.
Senator Kathuri, Senator Wakili, and Eddie, you've decided to prosecute your point of order in silence. Now, honorable senators, I've got 2 messages from the National Assembly that I need to communicate to you. I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 46.3 and 4, I have received the following message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage by the National Assembly of the Social Health Insurance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2023. The message, dated Thursday, 28 September 2023, was received on Monday, 2nd October 2023, in the office of the Clerk of the Senate. Pursuant to the said standing order, I now report the message. Pursuant to the provisions of Standing Orders 41 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas the Social Health Insurance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2023, was published via Kenya Gazette Supplement number 164 of 11 September 2023 as a bill seeking establishment to establish a legislative framework for the management and regulation of the provision of social health insurance, promote the implementation of the Universal Health Coverage, UHC, and ensure access to affordable and comprehensive quality health services by all Kenyans. And whereas the National Assembly considered the said bill on Wednesday, 27 September 2023, and passed it with amendments and in the form attached hereto. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 110 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 41 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby refer the bill to the Senate for consideration. Now, honorable senators, pursuant to Standing Order 163, which requires that a bill originating in the National Assembly be proceeded with by the Senate in the same manner as a bill introduced in the Senate by way of first reading. In accordance with Standing Order 144, I will, at the appropriate time during this sitting, call upon the clerk to read the said bill a first time. The second message is as follows. I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 46, 3, and 4, I have received the following message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage by the National Assembly of the Digital Health Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2023. The message, dated Thursday, 28 September 2023, was received on Monday, 2nd October 2023 in the office of the Clerk of the Senate. Pursuant to the said standing order, I now report the message. Pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 41 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas the Digital Health Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2023, was published via Kenya Gazette Supplement number 163 of 8th of September 2023 as a bill concerning county governments to provide a framework for provision of digital health services, a function affecting the powers of county governments set out in the 4th schedule to the Constitution, and whereas the said bill was considered and passed by the National Assembly on Wednesday, 27th September 2023 with amendments and in the form attached hereto. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 110 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 41 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby refer the bill to the Senate for consideration. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 163, which requires that a bill originating in the National Assembly be proceeded with by the Senate in the same manner as a bill introduced in the Senate by way of first reading, in accordance with Standing Order 144, I will, at the appropriate time during this sitting, call upon the clerk to read the said bill a first time. I thank you. Next order, clerk.
Order number 4, petitions.
Honorable Senators, I hereby report to the Senate that a petition has been submitted through the clerk by the Senator Mazai. You can have your seat. Senator Kathuri, you can resume your seat. Thank you. I hereby report to the Senate that a petition has been submitted through the clerk by the Cultural Environment Care Society concerning the conversion of LR number 209/2378/1 Pumwani Majengo from public to private land. As you're aware, under Article 119 of the Constitution, and I quote, every person has a right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including enacting, amending, or repealing any legislation. Honorable Senators, the salient issues raised in the said petition are as follows. 1, that the community in Pumwani Ward have been residents in the area since the colonial era and have established both residential and commercial properties in the area. That the current area population is 29,616 people who are majorly descendants of colonial workers from the coastal Muslim community who lived in Pangani area and later relocated to Pumwani. That in 1932, the Kenya National Commission recommended that following the relocation of community from Pangani to Pumwani, the residents ought to have been compensated in line with the delineation plans of the areas in Nairobi for settlement. That a lease on the said land had been granted to the Nairobi Municipal Council for a period of 99 years from the governor of the Kenya colony. This lease was to lapse on 1st of January 2023. That since the lapse of the lease, the county government of Nairobi and the defunct municipal council have been subleasing parts of the land to persons outside the community and to the detriment of the original residents. The various evictions have since been witnessed in the area, culminating in the discrimination of the initially allocated residents of Pumwani and has resulted in dispossession of the property and land. The irregular location has affected the road reserves and social amenities such as schools, clinics, memorial halls, and playgrounds in the area. That the petitioner has made all efforts to have this matter investigated and resolved by the relevant bodies, including the National Land Commission and the Nairobi City County Government, whose responses were not satisfactory. The petitioner, therefore, prays that the Senate intervenes on this matter with a view to investigating the alleged irregular allotment of plots with regard to LR number 209/2378/1, Pumwani Majengo, and making appropriate recommendations thereon. Now, there's another petition to be presented by Senator Kavindu. So I will allow Senator Kavindu to present that petition, and then I will allow, thereafter, I will allow combined contribution so that we save on time on these two petitions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 232(1)B, I hereby present to the Senate a petition submitted by the members of Muindimbingu Memorial Ngelani Association, who are citizens of the Republic of Kenya and residents of Machakos County. As you are aware, under the Article 119(1) of the Constitution, and I quote, "Every person has a right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including enacting, amending, or repealing of legislation." The salient issue raised in the said petition are as follows. A, that the petitioners have a membership of over 800 people and are residents of Ngelani area in Machakos County. That the Akamba people, B, that the Akamba people who are residents of Ngelani area suffered historical injustices dated back in 1938 at the hands of the British colonial administration and continue to suffer as the effect of the same up to now. That the historical injustices include detention without trial, economic crimes through the forceful confiscation of cattle, and lawful detentions of the leaders, such as Muindimbingu, and unlawful administration of collective punishment such as forceful labor under extreme conditions. D, that around 1938, the colonial administration started confiscating cattle belonging to the Akamba people in Ngelani area in the pretext of livestock disease control. E, that the community had relied on cattle as a source of income and as a means of paying dowry and other cultural rights. This confiscation of cattle greatly interrupted exercises of the community's cultural rights, especially marriage. F, that the confiscation of cattle were later taken and slaughtered at Leibikis as a predecessor of what is now the Kenya Meat Commission. This greatly impoverished the residents of Ngelani area and the neighboring communities, leading to systematic intergenerational poverty in the area, whose effects are still felt till date. G, that the issue presented in this petition have been raised with the relevant bodies, including the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, but the issue have not been addressed. The consequences of the petitioners pray that the Senate investigate this matter investigate this matter with a view to establish the accurate records and documentation of the true extent of the said historical injustices, as well as the true identity of individuals and institutional perpetrators in the colonial period, and recommends to the national government and any other person on measures that ought to be undertaken to provide redress for the historical injustices suffered by the Akamba people, signed by Senator Agnes Kavindu, MP, Machakos County.
Now, honorable senators, pursuant to standing at 237, I shall now allow comments, observations, and clarification in relation to the two petitions. Looking at my dashboard, I have only 3 senators who are going to make their interventions. The first will be Senator Manzo. Well, my dashboard is now full. So we are going to limit contributions at a maximum of 15 minutes. Each senator speaking not more than 3 minutes, so that we have as many as of you making their contribution. Senator Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to support this great petition. Mr. Speaker, Mundibingu, who today, you know, has even a street named in Nairobi, was one of the freedom fighters of the Kamba community who had joined other communities in Kenya to fight the colonies government so that Kenya could attain independence. And again, Mr. Speaker, Mwindi Bengu led the Kamba community to fight injustices occasioned by the colonial masters. Mr. Speaker, there has been very little attempt other than naming a street after him, and the county government of Machakos making a statue about him around Chumvi area. Nothing much has been done more to deal with this particular matter. Mr. Speaker, the injustices committed then still linger and run up to today, and the beauty about this regime of law, the course of action does not, disappear when such injustices can be traced, proven, and get connected to such a situation. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, you saw the Mau Mau injustices when a matter was filed in the courts. Eventually, the UK government called upon the aggrieved parties, and they ended up in some settlements of some sort. And therefore, this petition is very, very important for the community around Ngelani in Machakos, and the lower eastern in general. And that's why the petitioner is calling upon this House to investigate in view of establishing an accurate record and the documentation of the true extent of the said historical injustices, as well as the true identity of individuals. Mr. Speaker, the matter still lingers. That particular area, certain people have been impoverished for so many years, owing to these injustices done that time. This was the same team which joined the colleagues in Central Province to fight for independence of this country. I support, and Mr. Speaker, wish that the Senate will expedite this matter. We come up with serious documentation of which maybe the community can follow up with the UK government so that such historical injustices can be compensated. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Essie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, several years down the line, we have several reports that have been written to address some of these issues. Mr. Speaker, it's very sad that the Senate is actually discussing on these petitions. Because look at the petition on the issue of land. We have the Ndungu land report, whose recommendations, if you will carefully study, have these perfect recommendations on what should be happening, Mr. Speaker, and we have the political goodwill. I do not know why this issue should be coming to this House every now and then when we have a good script to follow from. Mr. Speaker, the petition on Mwindumbingu and the historical injustices. This is a time we need to revisit the TGRC report. These reports were well done by well-studied people who conducted civic education, wrote statements by listening from people. We have an administration that has given us the political goodwill. I think other than addressing these petitions as they are, this is an opportunity that we have to actually look at these two reports carefully. These two reports have solutions to most of the issues we keep mentioning here. Mr. Speaker, also as I conclude, the National Heroes Council is actually going to honor some of these heroes. We need some of these notable people be appreciated by the National Heroes Council in our upcoming Mashujaa Day celebrations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The solutions are with us. Let the reports not gather dust. Let's open up those reports. They offer recommendations that can benefit this country. Thank you.
Senator Oburu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to support this petition by Senator Kabindu because, Mr. Speaker, historical injustices meted out by the British government are so enormous, Mr. Speaker, that the people still continue to bear the burden of some of the injustices borne by the colonial authorities. Mr. Speaker, the colonial authorities were very, very ruthless. Mr. Speaker, during those days, they used to confiscate people's cattle. They used to recruit people and take them to the army to serve in the British Army forcefully, without the consent even of their families, Mr. Speaker. And our heroes like Mwindumbingu, who fought tirelessly, not just for the rights of the Kamba people, but for the rights of the Kenyans to have their land, to have their land back, and to have independence, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, some of our heroes like Mwindumbingu, and some of them like Bildad Kagia, who died, people like Kungu Karumba, whose family are still in tatters suffering. I think the MP for Nyandarua will tell you that. And Mr. Speaker, these historical injustices have been ignored by successive governments. Mr. Speaker, some of these families need to be considered. We just discussed the other day the family of our former Speaker here in Parliament from Nandi. Mr. Speaker, the family is in a lot of suffering because their land was grabbed, and their land was grabbed and sold,
because Serone was detained just because he made a statement, just he gave his views when he was in the chair like you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we hope that some of these historical injustices will be compiled and our government, the government of Kenya, at least this time around, can take up some of these historical injustices and do justice to the families. Those families, those who fought are no longer there, but the ones who have remained should at least enjoy some of the good practices that we have in other countries, Mr. Speaker, where heroes are recognized, where heroes are given due, not just recognition in symbolical recognition, but also in material help, so that they can enjoy the fruits of independence, so that they can enjoy the sweat of their people who fought for our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to add my voice to the comments pertaining to the land in Pumwani. Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge the committee to take this matter very seriously. It's about time Kenyans realize that not every Kenyan can own a piece of land. Number two, Kenyans must subject themselves to the provisions of the Constitution, which in this matter, Mr. Speaker, is that matters of land in the Constitution of Kenya were handed over to the National Land Commission and not to the Senate of Kenya. So if Kenyans have gone to the National Land Commission and they have not gotten what they wanted, they should not fall back to the Senate. Maybe the farthest they can go, Mr. Speaker, is to go to court and challenge the decision of the National Land Commission. It is true that everybody has a right to petition this House, but we want Kenyans to be urged to realize that what we call public land, Mr. Speaker, is the land which at the date of the promulgation of the current Constitution was at that time unalienated. So if land was unalienated in 2010, that opportunity of you partaking of that public land is gone. You cannot expect to now be a beneficiary when the Constitution has, Mr. Speaker, clearly now defined that either you are sitting on private land, you are in community land, or on your public land. This, I believe, Mr. Speaker, would serve as an opportunity for our committee to carry people like the people who are applying, 29,000 from Pumiani. If you give the 29,000, how about the children of the 29? Again, they'll come with their claims. You will not have anywhere, even where, to build a pit latrine. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mazayo. Senator Mazayo, you've donated your time to Senator Hamida. Very well.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, pengine kwa sababu ya ninavyompenda dadangu, pengine nitampa, lakini sio leo, kwa sababu huu ni malalamishi ya muhimu sana. Bwana Spika, malalamishi haya yaliyoletwa ya kidhulma yaliyofanyiwa watu wa Pumwani ni jambo la kusikitisha. Malalamishi kama haya pia yanapatikana sehemu mbalimbali za nchi yetu ya Kenya, ikiwemo Kilifi kama eneo moja ambalo limevamiwa sana na mabwenyenye. Bwana Spika, kuna tabia hizi ambazo zimetokea sasa ya kwamba wale matajiri wenye pesa nyingi wanachukua ama wananyanyasa maskini wasiojiweza kutoka kwa mashamba yao. Na hii tabia imeendelea kwa muda mrefu sana. Mpaka sasa utapata ya kwamba watu wa Kilifi wengi wanaoishi kule wanaishi bila mashamba yao. Mashamba yao yamechukuliwa na mabwenyenye, watu matajiri ambao wamekuja hapa Nairobi, wamefanya waliofanya yote na wakatoa ma title deed, wamekwenda huko, wamefurusha Wagiriama, sasa wameweka mafence, wao ndio wanaotaka kuishi katika hiyo ardhi. Sisi tunasema la, hatutakubali na mpango huu hata kidogo. Hivi sasa imetokea ndani ya Pumwani. Watu wa Pumwani wameketi hapo tokea miaka hiyo yote, wamekuwa wakitunza hii ardhi, wamekuwa wakiishi hapo, na waliahidiwa ya kwamba hii ni ardhi ambayo watapewa. Bwana Spika, katika malalamishi haya nikizingatia kwamba hawa wamekuwa wakizaana, nambari yao imeongezeka, hili shamba lililoko hapo Pumwani ni haki yao kupewa. Hivi sasa tunaona sasa hii shamba imeanza kugeuzwa namna hii, wananchi wameanza wale matajiri wameanza kufika hapo. Sasa mipangilio inafanywa, imepelekwa katika hii, kama inachukuliwa na hii county Nairobi County wamechukua, ama wametolewa katika ile hali yao waliokuwa kishi pale, wanafurushwa ikiwa watu wengine wanapewa. Sisi tunasema ya kwamba malalamishi haya yaliyoletwa ni ya muhimu sana, na ile kamati ambayo itahusika na kuangalia hii, tunasema kwamba iangaliwe kwa uangalifu sana, kuona ya kwamba haki ya wale watu wa Pumwani wamepewa haki yao kama Wakenya wanaoishi katika nchi hii, na kama haki ambao wanahitaji wafanyiwe na serikali yao. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Chute.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this issue of Pumwani is not an issue which is in Pumwani only. It is an issue which is happening around this country. Mr. Speaker, the housing issue is a devolved function, and the county governments are now transferring public land to individual developers, Mr. Speaker. And this is happening in many places. I would like to give an example of Buxton Estate. Buxton in Mombasa are before a committee, which I am also happen to be in that committee. Mr. Speaker, in Buxton, that land is 12-acre land. The value of that land is 3.6 billion shillings. And the tenants, the former tenants, were evicted. They were given rent for 1 year. Mr. Speaker, up to today, that property, the developer has not finished. And those people, the poor people, former tenants of Buxton, are still in the slums, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the documents, the title deeds have been transferred from the national government to an individual developer called Buxton Point. Mr. Speaker, when you find Pumwani people crying to the Senate, that is the last point now. They cannot go to any place to get justice. Mr. Speaker, I would want to urge this issue of affordable housing is a scam, Mr. Speaker. The reason why I'm saying it's a scam, I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, today. How can you evict 560 people who have lived in Buxton Estate for over 50 years? And you invite a developer, a rich man, to come and invest in that land and start collecting money from rich people. To start with, that person has to pay 1 million shillings first. How do you expect a poor man who has been evicted from that land to afford 1 million shillings? Mr. Speaker, as we speak, today, Buxton Estate is going for 3.8 to 5.6 million shillings, depending on the bedroom. Mr. Speaker, when you see people coming here, crying, coming to the Senate, they're not coming here to enjoy themselves. There is a problem in this country. Mr. Speaker, the government is talking about hustlers. If you talk about hustlers, how can you evict hustlers from where they've lived for 50 years and take them back to the slums? Mr. Speaker, I would like to say, in support of
Your time is up, Senator Chute. Lastly, Senator Hamida. Then we move to the next order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the petition for the Pumwani people. Mr. Speaker, as we see that the community in Pumwani ward has been residents since colonial time. Mr. Speaker, again, the population is 29,616, and the Kenya National Commission recommended for them to be resettled. And the land was actually granted to Nairobi Municipal Council for a period of 99 years for the residents. Where will the residents go? Mr. Speaker, I speak with passion about Pumwani. I know so much about Pumwani. My kid brothers and the rest were born in Pumwani, and my mother happened to be a councillor of Pumwani for many years. She managed to relocate also a few residents from Pumwani to New Pumwani Estate. At that time, the area member of parliament was the late Tom Boyer. And I know the history of Pumwani. The residents actually should be sorted out and should be compensated through issuance of a house, Mr. Speaker. In the event that any individual refuses to settle, monetary compensation should be done, Mr. Speaker. 99 years is a long time for them not to have been settled. Time is overdue, Mr. Speaker, for the Pumwani residents to be given, to be relocated or to be given their land. I pray for justice for the Pumwani residents, Mr. Speaker. I am indeed, I speak passionately because I lived in Pumwani. My parents lived there, and my mother was a councillor there for many years, and she managed to relocate. Unfortunately, the voice of the people has gone down, but I am here actually, and I wish I could even scream on top of my voice that the Pumwani people should be resettled and not otherwise. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support this petition.
Senator Beatrice, 2 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute on the two petitions. Honorable Speaker, from the word go, I want to support the two petitions. Honorable Speaker, land is a factor of production, and that is why land is at the heart of every Kenyan and everybody, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important to note that the National Land Commission was constituted to look into the management of both public and private land. So it is very questionable that public land that was surrendered for public use would revert back to private land. And so, Honorable Speaker, this must be looked into. Honorable Speaker, while we were in Turkana, it was very sad to note that the whole of Turkana country, a country stretching as large as over 77 kilometers, has only one registrar, Honorable Speaker. And there is no injustice that is more than the injustice that is being played on the people of Turkana. Honorable Speaker, this one registrar takes care of two countries. That is West Pokot and Turkana County. And Honorable Speaker, we should take note of that the government must post another registrar to this area so that the people of Turkana are served just as all other Kenyans are served. And Honorable Speaker, in the absence of the services of a registrar, that is also considered as injustice. Honorable Speaker, I also support the petition by Senator Agnes Kavindu because, Honorable Speaker, it is worth noticing that as early as 1938, all the cattle in Kamba were seized by these people. As I support this petition, I would like to suggest that these people must not only be compensated for the loss, but an evaluation must be done, and at the present cost, that is the cost that should be compensated to the people of Kamba. Honorable Speaker, I support the two petitions.
Now, honorable senators, the petition that I did present is hereby committed to the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources for its consideration, while the petition presented by Senator Kavindu is committed to the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights. Now, both committees, in terms of Standing Order 238-2, they do have not more than 60 calendar days from today to respond to the petitioners, the two petitioners, by way of a report addressed to the petitioners and laid on the table of the Senate. Clerk, call the next order, please.
Order number 5, papers.
The Majority Leader. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Statement pursuant to Standing Order 52-1, the Honorable Senator James Lominan. Are they here?
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to the Standing Order 52-1 to make a statement on a matter of countrywide and general topical concern, namely the untapped potential of Lake Turkana blue economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, as we gather for the third Senate sitting outside Nairobi, hosted in the heart of the Turkana County, I wish to draw the attention of the Senate to a matter of immense significance for our region and the entire nation, the untapped potential of Lake Turkana's blue economy. The vast potential of this natural treasure remains largely unexploited, and its development could be a catalyst for the economic growth, job creation, and environmental sustainability. Mr. Speaker, sir, Turkana County, despite its abundant natural resources, has faced persistent challenges in terms of development, access to basic social amenities, and economic opportunities. The Turkana community has been underrepresented in the benefits derived from its own resources, including the magnificent Lake Turkana. This has left our people grappling with poverty and limited access to essential services, in stark contrast to the potential for prosperity that the lake holds. Mr. Speaker, sir, Lake Turkana poses the following opportunities. One, it boasts strong and consistent winds, making it an ideal location for wind power generation. The Lake Turkana Wind Power Project has already demonstrated the immense potential for renewable energy generation in the country. The lake supports a diverse range of fish species, presenting a significant opportunity for commercial fishing, job creation, and improved food security for our people. The lake had fish factory before, but it broke down long time ago, and no effort to date has been made by the government to bring the plant back to life. 3, Lake Turkana's unique landscapes, sand dunes along its shores, beautiful and Central Island National Park, are draw for tourists from across the globe. Investing in tourism infrastructure and promotion can yield substantial economic benefits. And 4, enhancing water transport on Lake Turkana can unlock trade routes, reducing transportation costs, and foster regional integration. Mr. Speaker, sir, in order to fully realize the opportunities, the following challenges need to be addressed. 1, the lake faces environmental threats such as pollution and siltation, which jeopardizes aquatic life and the fragile ecosystem. It is imperative that we prioritize stringent regulation and sustainable practices to safeguard our natural heritage. 2, Mr. Speaker, inadequate infrastructure, including roads and ports, hinders the movement of goods and people around the lake, limiting its economic potential. And 3, Mr. Speaker, the Turkana community has historically been excluded from the benefits of the blue economy. This exclusion not only perpetuates poverty, but also violates the principle of fairness and equity. Mr. Speaker, sir, I call upon the Senate Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock, and Fishery to engage the national government and consider the following recommendation to address the aforementioned challenges for the benefit and welfare of the people of the Turkana County. 1, advocate for and enforce environmentally sustainable practices in and around Lake Turkana to protect its ecosystem and aquatic life. Mr. Speaker, sir, 2, to prioritize investment in critical infrastructure, including roads, ports, and cold storage facilities to support economic activities around the lake. 3, local community must be engaged in decision-making processes and benefit-sharing mechanisms to ensure that they actively participate in and benefit from the blue economy. And finally, Mr. Speaker, develop a comprehensive plan in collaboration with the government and stakeholders to compensate the Turkana communities for historical neglects and privation of benefits from Lake Turkana resources. Mr. Speaker, sir, in conclusion, the potential of Lake Turkana blue economy is a golden opportunity for development that cannot be ignored. We, as representatives of the Turkana County, must advocate vigorously for the responsive harnessing of these invaluable resources. Let us unite across the party lines in the 3rd Senate Mashinani to drive discussion on how Lake Turkana can become symbol of a sustainable development, inclusivity, and prosperity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Lomina, proceed with your second statement, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to the Standing Order 52-1 to make a statement on a matter of countrywide and general topical concern, namely the displacement and aggression faced by the Turkana community. Mr. Speaker, sir, as we convene this Senate Mashinani, hosted here in the heart of Turkana County, I am compelled to shed light on this matter of grave concern that affects the very core of existence of Turkana people. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Turkana community, which is known for its resilience, vibrant culture, and unique way of life, has inhabited a vast and diverse land space historically, Turkana County, which covers an extensive 77,000 square kilometers, has been the ancestral home of the Turkana people for generations. However, in recent years, they have faced unprecedented challenges that threaten their very existence. Mr. Speaker, sir, the factors behind this displacement aggression are cattle rustling and tribal conflicts with the neighboring pastoral community, which recently escalated to the killing of people in borderline regions. These activities by heavy and armed bandits have inflicted immense suffering to the people and led to the displacement of Turkana community from affected regions. Mr. Speaker, secondly, encroachment by communities from the neighboring countries of Uganda, Southern Sudan, and Ethiopia, as in the case in Nadapal, where there exists conflict with the Toposa tribe of Southern Sudan. The Ethiopia and Uganda border regions have also experienced conflict fueled by search for grazing and land and water. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is imperative that we address these issues conclusively, focusing on safeguarding the Turkana community while preserving their land's integrity. I propose the following solution to this problem, Mr. Speaker. 1, promotion of peaceful coexistence with the neighboring communities by establishing and addressing the root causes of conflict through dialogue, peace caravans, and community engagement. 2, collaboration between the relevant authorities in the country and the neighboring countries to secure the border regions and resolve the land disputes diplomatically. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, proper promotion of sustainable resource management practices to ensure equitable utilization of land, water, and grazing resources while preserving the environment. Fourthly, Mr. Speaker, empowerment of the Turkana community through education and skill development to reduce vulnerability. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is our duty as representatives of the people to protect the interests of all the Kenyans, and in this case, the Turkana community, the unwarranted displacement and urgent need for the limitation of internal borders of the counties of Turkana, Samburu, Baringo, and West Pokot cannot be gainsaid. During this time, I explore all the senators to lend their attention and support advocacy to the critical issue. This well-being and prosperity of the Turkana people depends on our ability to address these matters promptly and decisively. And thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next, clerk. We have finished the statements under Order 52.1. We are now going to statements under Standing Order 53.1. Nominated Senator George Mpogwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the leasing of idle public land to farmers. In the statement, the committee should, 1, table a list of all underutilized public land with the allocations, the custodian government agencies, and plans to put them to productive use. 2, provide an update on the implementation of the government's plan to commercialize idle public land to address the food deficit and increase agricultural productivity, stating the acreage and location of public land leased out to private investors for crop and livestock farming, the lease period and the cost of the leases. And 3, report on the economic, social, or environmental benefits derived from the productive utilization of public land, stating measures put in place to monitor and ensure that the leased public land is put to intended use. And 4, appraise the Senate of measures established to ensure transparency, accountability, and fairness in the allocation of idle public land by government agencies, indicating initiatives in place to encourage the participation of the youth and persons living with disabilities in the process. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Karungo Dhangwa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the mitigation efforts by the government to control the overflow of Karimeno II Dam. 1, the department should spell out plans in place, if any, to mitigate the effects of the anticipated El Nino rains on the residents of Karimeno in Gatondo North, residing in close proximity to Karimeno II Dam. 2, state actions taken by the government to achieve a permanent solution for the continuous overflow of the dam, given the persistent destruction it has caused to the residents in the area. 3, state plans by the government to ensure the timely relocation and compensation of the residents of Karimeno whose lands have been submerged due to the rising water levels. And 4, elucidate on the safety measures implemented in the vicinity of the dam, particularly in response to the increased number of fatalities in the area. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator William Cheptumo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the settlement of outstanding compensation claims for deaths and injuries caused by snake bites. In the statement, the committee should, 1, indicate a status of settlement of approved compensation claims by the Kenya Wild Service arising out of the deaths and injuries from snake bites that were reported between 2014 and 2021, particularly in Baringo County, as well as the expected timeline and measures in place for the expeditious settlement of any outstanding claims. 2, state plans, if any, by the government to develop antivenom for the treatment of snake bites, highlighting the projected timelines, objectives, and guiding policy. And thirdly, provide details on the procurement and pre-county distribution of antivenom for the provide details in the procurement per county distribution of antivenom from 2020 to date, explaining any plans or initiatives in place to enhance the availability and accessibility of antivenom in areas with high reported cases of snake bites, including in Baringo County. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mohammed Chute, Marsabit County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have 3 statements. I'll read 3 of them. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Cohesion, Equal Opportunity, and Regional Integration. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the mechanism in place to ensure that persons with disabilities, women, and minorities are adequately represented in state agencies, including Kenya National Highway Authority, Kenya Urban Roads Authority, Kenya Rural Roads Authority, Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, Kenya Veterinary Vaccine Production Institute, Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization, Kenya Medical Research Institute, Kenya Ports Authority, Public Service Commission, and Kenya Maritime Authority, tabling evidence detailing the recruitment practices and quotas, if any, for these particular groups, and 2, provide evidence that the above-mentioned state agencies are ensuring that there is exclusivity and equal representation in their recruitment, tabling audits or assessment, if any, undertaken in the last 3 years to ascertain the level of inclusivity in recruitment process. My second statement, Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries on vaccine production and distribution at the Kenya Veterinary Vaccines Production Institute, KVAVAPI. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide details about vaccine produced by KVAVAPI from 2010 to date, stating the types and quantities of these vaccines used, how many expired to. Number 2, indicate where and when these vaccines were administered and report the number of beneficiaries categorized by their geographical locations. And finally, state the percentage of raw materials locally sourced and those imported in vaccine production. Madam Speaker, the third one, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the status of construction of technical and vocational education and training institutions. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide an update on the status of construction projects for TVET institutions undertaken by the government since 2013, particularly in the counties of Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Marsabit, Turkana, Samburu, West Pokot, and Baringo, explaining any disparities between the contractual and actual commencement and completion dates. Number 2, inform the Senate of how the projects were tendered, providing details on the bids received, contractors who won the award, and the respective bids amounts. And finally, Madam Speaker, indicate the expected completion dates of all ongoing TVET construction projects, outlining measures put in place to ensure their timely completion and fast-track their operationalization. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. It's Senator Hamida Kibwana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have 3 statements, but I'll read 2 of them. I'll start with the first one, Madam Speaker. The abuse in care homes for the elderly. Arise, Madam Speaker, arise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding reports of abuse of people residing in care homes for elderly people at the PCA Thogoto Care Home for the Aged, as highlighted by an investigative news featured by BBC Africa Eye. In the statement, the committee should, conduct an immediate investigation into allegations of mistreatment of the aged at the PCA Thogoto Care Home for Elderly People. 2, explain what immediate steps are being taken to ensure that all care homes, including the PCA Thogoto Care Home, comply with established standards. And 3, review existing regulations and standards governing care homes, including staffing and care levels, and make recommendations for those who fail to meet these standards to protect residents' rights and well-being. I will proceed with the second statement. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant, it's on plastic and synthetic waste dumped in Kenya. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Land, Environment and Natural Resources regarding dumping of textile, plastic and synthetic waste in Kenya. In the statement, the committee should, number 1, detail the steps that relevant state agencies have taken to ensure that Kenya does not become a dumping ground for substandard textile imported into the country. Number 2, present a comprehensive report in collaboration with the Ministries of Investments, Trade and Industry, Foreign and Diaspora Affairs and Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, outlining the handling of textile and plastic waste originating from international products within Kenya. And number 3, investigate the feasibility of implementing a take-back or circular economy program involving returning and repurposing unsellable and non-biodegradable items in collaboration with exporting countries. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Samson Cherarike.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Request for statement on the unsettled bills owed to the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, or KEMSA. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health concerning bills owed by counties to the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency's KEMSA. In the statement, Madam Speaker, the committee should, 1, state the amount currently pending in bills that counties owe KEMSA, or Kenya Medical Supplies Agency. Number 2, Madam Speaker, state the total amount in pending bills owed to KEMSA by other entities outside counties and other medical institutions. Madam Speaker, number 3, appraise the Senate on the ongoing reforms at Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, stating the strategies and plans, if any, being employed to address delays in supplying medical commodities and other supplies to the great counties of the Republic of Kenya. And finally, Madam Speaker, disclose the nature of agreements and terms of engagement and conditions that have been established between the county governments, 47 of them, and medical suppliers, stating the amount that the county governments owe to these suppliers for the last 3 years outside the Kenya Medical Supplies Agencies. Madam Speaker, and I request that this issue be dispensed as practicably as soon as possible. Madam Speaker, with that, I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Cherarike. Next order.
Order number 8, the e-health bill, Senate Bills number 32 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide a framework for provision of telemedicine, m-health, health tourism, licensing of health e-waste undertakings, the roles of the national and county governments, and for connected purposes.
Next.
Order number 9, the Digital Health Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the establishment of the Digital Health Agency, to provide a framework for provision of digital health services, to establish a comprehensive integrated digital health information system, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 10, the Social Health Insurance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to establish the framework for the management of social health insurance, to provide for the establishment of the Social Health Authority, to give effect to Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution, and for connected purposes.
Honorable Senators, we are done with the bills which were going through first reading. We are now going to motions, so next order.
Order number 11, motion, extension of the mandate of the ad hoc committee to investigate the proliferation of religious organizations and the circumstances leading to the deaths of more than 95 people in Shakahola, Kilifi County.
Senator Danson Mogatana, you're moving this motion.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move in an amended fashion under Order 62 that aware that at the sitting of the Senate held on the Thursday, 27th April 2023, the Senate by resolution established an ad hoc committee to investigate the proliferation of religious organizations and the circumstances leading to the deaths of more than 95 people in Shakahola, Kilifi County. Appreciating that the initial mandate of the Select Committee was due to lapse on Wednesday, 26 July 2023, but was extended for a further 30 days at a sitting of the Senate held on Tuesday, 1st August 2023, to allow the committee to conclude the investigations owing to the evolving nature of the matter at the time, with discovery of new grave sites. Noting that the renewed mandate of the committee lapsed on the 5th September 2023, and the committee is yet to meet a number of key stakeholders in order to prepare a comprehensive report. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of the ad hoc committee by a further period not exceeding 7 days from the 5th October 2023, and to table its final report in the Senate on or before the 11th October 2023. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the last paragraph simply says that the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of the ad hoc committee by a further period not exceeding 14 days from the 5th October 2023. Madam Speaker, this is a motion that was agreed by the entire committee, and the reason for it was very simple. Madam Speaker, the committee was the opinion that there are some extremely important.
What is your point of order, Honorable Senator?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Senator Mugatana is one of the ranking members in this House, and he's moving a motion which is different from the motion that we have on the order paper. Madam Speaker, could we be guided why the motion reads 7 days and is moving a motion that reads 14 days?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Obviously,
Senator Danson.
my my friend and colleague wasn't listening, because if you are listening, you would hear that I moved under Standing Order 63 in an amended fashion. And I had sought the indulgence of the Speaker. This motion was meant to be moved in Turkana. We agreed it's 14 days for practical reason. Madam Speaker, we must...
Senator, it is Standing Order 62. You
62.
may wish to be guided.
Yes, thank you. Madam Speaker, we have to serve the witnesses and give them clear 7 days. Now, if we give only 7 days from today, it will mean this summons will be typed today, go for approval tomorrow. Those are 2 days gone. Then the sergeant attempts to serve on the 3rd day. Those are 3 days gone. And when you serve the witness and you give them less than 7 days, the witness may choose to ignore those summonses. So, Madam Speaker, just for practical legal reasons and standing advised by the legal people in this Senate, we are asking for 14 days so that we can be able to get the summonses out, give the sergeant at arms enough time to serve the summonses, 7 clear days, and then we can have a sitting to conclude this committee. So, Madam Speaker, I've explained those. The main reason is that we need to conclude this report, and we are just about to conclude this report, except that the committee was of the view that we need to meet at least 3-4 witnesses whom we have directed summons to be served upon them. So, Madam Speaker, I beg to move, and I ask the Honorable Senator David Wakoli to second the motion. I thank you.
Asante sana.
Senator Wakoli.
Asante sana Speaker kwa nafasi hii. Ningependa kusema kwamba kamiti ya Shakahola tulijadili kwa mapana na marefu, na kwamba wahusika wakuu katika mchakato wa kupambanua na kupata ukweli wa mambo yanayoendelea kule Shakahola hawakupewa nafasi mwafaka ya kuja kujieleza, na ili kuhakikisha kwamba ripoti tunayoleta katika jumba la Senate ni ripoti kamilifu. Mheshimiwa Spika, unafahamu kwamba matokeo ya tume hii ama komiti hii itaweza kupeana mwelekeo mkubwa katika masuala ya dini na itikadi za kidini katika nchi ya Kenya, na kwamba yote ambayo tutaleta katika jumba la Senate itakuwa kumbukumbu ya kazi ambayo maseneta walipewa kuhakikisha kwamba mambo ya kiroho, mambo ya kidini na mambo ya ujenzi wa taifa yanaweza kudhibitiwa katika muktadha wa maendeleo. Sasa sisi kama komiti tuliomba kwamba tupewe muda mwafaka ili wahusika hawa waje wajieleze, alafu tutamatishe na tulete ripoti katika jumba la Senate ili serikali iweze kutekeleza yale ambayo mapendekezo ambayo tutakuwa tumeleta. Sasa kwa hayo ningependa kuunga mkono yale ambayo mwenyekiti wa komiti amesema, ili tuweze kupewa nafasi tukamilishe yale ambayo tulipewa kufanya. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Ninaunga mkono yote ambayo mwenyekiti nami mwenyewe Senator wa kaunti ya Bungoma nimesema. Asante sana.
Honorable Senators, I do propose the question that aware that at the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 27th April 2023, the Senate by resolution established an ad hoc committee to investigate the proliferation of religious organizations and the circumstances leading to the death of more than 95 people in Shakahola, Kilifi County, appreciating that the initial mandate of the select committee was due to lapse on Wednesday, 26 July 2023, but was extended for a further 30 days at a sitting of the Senate held on Tuesday, 1st August 2023, to allow the committee to conclude the investigations owing to the evolving nature of the matter at the time, with discovery of new grave sites, Noting that the renewed mandate of the committee lapsed on 5th September 2023, and the committee is yet to meet a number of key stakeholders in order to prepare a comprehensive report. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of the ad hoc committee by a further period not exceeding 14 days from 5th October 2023, and to table its final report in the Senate on or before 19th October 2023. Honorable Senators, at this juncture, I would have wished to call senators to contribute to this motion, but I want to seek your indulgence that we can skip the contributions to this motion. Or then I'll give you maybe one on each side of the divide to contribute to this motion. Senator Madzayo. Senator Boni Halwale, you could start.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the House will recall that we were part of the team that envisaged the creation of this ad hoc committee, and therefore it gives me a lot of pleasure to see that this committee was indeed necessary. Now that the committee is coming at the tail end of its good work, and knowing that the problem which was sitting at 97 bodies at that time has now grown to over 400 people, 400 bodies, all the more reason why we should allow these 2 weeks for the committee to have a comprehensive report. I support.
Senator Madzayo.
Asante Bispika. Bispika, kwanza ningependa kusema kamati ile tulioiweka kuangalia ama kuchunguza hali ya maafa yaliyotokea na miili kupatikana kifukuliwa ambayo imefika karibu 95 na zaidi, manake mpaka sasa imefika inaenda karibu 500, lakini tukizingatia kwamba watu walipoteza maisha yao, na ingekuwa vyema tupate ripoti ya kisawasawa. Ripoti hii ya kisawasawa inaweza pengine ikapatikana kwa vile ambavyo wale wanakamati wanajisikia wanaweza kumaliza shughuli hii. Ikiwa wameomba muda kidogo ambao wana haja uongezwe ili waweze kukamilisha na kuambia Wakenya ni nini yaliyojiri kulingana na ule uchunguzi waliofanya, basi nafikiria hilo litakuwa ni jambo zuri. Sisi tu kama mimi kama seneta wa Kilifi, nataka kusema kwamba ni jambo la kusikitisha kwamba sisi tunapata vifo kama hivi. Hivi sasa watu wa Kilifi wanahisia, wanasikitika, wako na majonzi kwa sababu ni katika ardhi zao ambapo kila siku uchao watu wanafukua miili wakipata wale watu ambao wafariki. Hata ikiwa hawatuhusu, hata ikiwa hatuhusiani kidamu, lakini wao ni Wakenya kama sisi tulivyo Wakenya. Ni jambo la kusikitisha kama familia wamepoteza jamii zao. Kwa hiyo muda huo wanaouliza ya kwamba waweze kupewa, ikiwa chairman wao ndugu yangu Mungatana anatoka katika maeneo hayo ya huko Pwani, ningependelea kuona ya kwamba ripoti itakayoandikwa iwe ni nzuri, na muda waliouliza wapewe wa hizo wiki 2 wakamilishe kazi inayowafaa. Asante Bwana Speaker. Speaker.
Asante. Thank you, Honorable Senator. I see 2 more requests. Senator Chiradike, you wanted to comment on this?
Quick one. Just quick, Madam Speaker, is that to congratulate the committee led by Honorable Senator Danson Mungatana and the committee of investigating Shakahola. Madam Speaker, you know, this is a very critical, although this is a procedural motion, the reason we are extending time for them is to give us earth-shaking, radical proposals into the issue of proliferation of religious organizations in the country. And I think it is never the interest of Parliament or the Senate or National Assembly to regulate per se the operations of religious organizations in this country. Madam Speaker, I want to challenge the committee, take time. Let us have policy, legislative intervention, so that in future, Madam Speaker, we don't have individuals who take advantage of religion. Madam Speaker, we don't want to fall to the trap of Karl Marx, that they say religion is the opium of the masses, Madam Speaker. We want them to give us policy, legislative, and even constitutional amendments, Madam Speaker, to ensure that they deliver on their mandate. So, Madam Speaker, I hope in the next days that they have requested, they should be able to table back their report, Madam Speaker. This is a procedural motion. Well, they'll table their report back to the House, Madam Speaker. We'll have opportunity on discussing and debating the report, Madam Speaker, but wish them well. I want to finally thank your office, Madam Speaker, for your magnanimity in facilitating this ad hoc committee. I know there are many austerity measures within your office, but out of your magnanimity, you have ensured that this ad hoc committee functions, and therefore we still appeal for your facilitation, your support through your office and the Secretariat. We are proud. I want to say we are proud of our Secretariat, Madam Speaker. They are doing a commendable, world-class job in all aspects on the committees of this House, including the Shakahola. So let's say, I hope this will put an end to the Shakahola issues once and for all. It is not the interest of Kenyans to see such issues happening again in the future. Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Wakili Sigei will be the last one to contribute on this.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for granting me also the opportunity to...
Senator Agnes Kavindu, you know what you should do when you are crossing the floor. Can you abide by the standing orders of this House? Senator Wakili.
Thank you once again, Madam Speaker. What the Honorable Senator Mungatana is asking this House to do is to give them an additional 14 days within which to complete and give us a report on the Shakahola stories. We all watched, we read, and we will need to get a comprehensive report from the information they will have collected from the public, from those who have been involved, from victims, or from any other interested party. And they're asking for that which is not too much to ask for. 14 days is reasonable time for them to be able to conclude the process of getting this House and Kenyans at large a report as regards the happenings in the Shakahola in Kilifi County. Indeed, Madam Speaker, it is going to be something that will affect not only the victims or those who are affected or their families, but the country at large, because religious institutions are institutions that cut across each corner of this country. And therefore, as we support, we also wish to indicate to the committee that indeed it's not only this House that is expecting them to give us a report, but the country at large, recalling the fact that there is a committee that was set up, a judicial committee that was set up, which unfortunately was gagged by the courts, and therefore they were unable to proceed. And there is still another ad hoc, I believe, committee that is equally collecting views. That in itself, Madam Speaker, confirms the importance of the role this committee is undertaking for this country. And therefore, asking for an extension of 14 days, in my view, is not too much to ask. And I therefore support that this committee be granted at that time, and we expect them to give this House and the whole country a substantive report in order to enable us understand and get to know what is the next course of action to be done to protect the people of Kenya, to protect our religious institutions, and to protect also the vulnerable people who in most cases are victims, who are the ones who end up suffering. I therefore support.
Thank you, Senator. That marks the end of the debate on that motion, and I call upon the chairperson of that ad hoc committee, Senator Danson Mungatana, to reply.
Madam Speaker, I'm so grateful to the senators who have supported this motion. Madam Speaker, being a procedural motion, I don't want to take time. I'm just grateful that the plenary has given us 14 more days, and we shall be faithful to finish the work that is pending. I thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to reply.
Pursuant to Standing Order 84-1, I hereby make a determination that the matter does not affect counties. And honorable senators, I put the question that aware that at the sitting of the Senate held on 27th April 2023, the Senate by resolution established an ad hoc committee to investigate the proliferation of religious organizations and the circumstances leading to the deaths of more than 95 people in Shakahola, Kilifi County, appreciating that the initial mandate of the select committee was due to lapse on Wednesday, 26 July 2023, but was extended for a further 30 days at the sitting of the Senate held on Tuesday, 1st August 2023, to allow the committee to conclude the investigation owing to the evolving nature of the matter at the time, with discovery of new grave sites, noting that the renewed mandate of the committee lapsed on 5th September 2023, and the committee is yet to meet a number of key stakeholders in order to prepare a comprehensive report. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of the ad hoc committee by a further period not exceeding 14 days from 5th October 2023, and to table its final report in the Senate on or before 19th October 2023. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 12, motion, extension of the mandate of the ad hoc committee on the compensation to the Kenyan victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi.
Senator Kavindu Mudhama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity, for the extension of the ad hoc committee for Bomb Blast 1998 in Nairobi, the American Embassy. That aware that the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 27th June 2023, the Senate resolved to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the compensation of the Kenyan victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi, the report and report back to the House within 3 months of the establishment. Realizing that the 3 months period will elapse on 30th of September 2023, but owing the magnitude of the work involved, the committee will not have completed its work within that duration. Noting the need for the more time to carry out through the inquiry into this matter. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of the ad hoc committee for a further period of not exceeding 45 days of these resolutions, and to table its final report in the Senate on or before 10th of November 2023. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Can you invite the person to the senator who will second the motion?
I invite Senator Mungatano to second.
Madam Speaker, I beg to second the motion moved by the Honorable Senator Kavindu. Madam Speaker, the committee has been performing a lot of work. We have seen them taking witnesses. We have seen them attending the memorial services. We have seen them engaging. And Madam Speaker, there is no doubt in my mind that this committee has put its best foot forward. So, Madam Speaker, it is clear to us, as the chair of this committee has put it, that there is still pending work that they have not yet finished. We have no doubt that if they are given these 45 more days, they will be able to accomplish the work that is ahead of them. Mr. Speaker, now, I ask the members who are present here to support this motion simply because it is for a good purpose and a good cause. And it is also a procedural motion. We shouldn't have too many arguments about this. I urge the House to support. I beg to second. I thank you.
Honorable Senators, now I propose the question that aware that at the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 27th June 2023, the Senate resolved to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the compensation to the Kenyan victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi and report back to the House within 3 months of its establishment, realizing that the 3-month period lapsed on 30th September 2023, but owing to the magnitude of the work involved, the committee will not have completed its work within this duration, noting the need for more time to carry out a thorough inquiry into this matter. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of the ad hoc committee for a further period not exceeding 45 days of this resolution and to table its final report in the Senate on or before the 10th of November 2023. Honorable Senators, I see there are requests to contribute to this motion, and I'll call upon Senator Samson Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I think mine is just to laud the committee they have been doing. I think this extension of time, Mr. Speaker, is well within the law because we want them, as I said earlier on, we want this committee to come up with legislative policy interventions that, Mr. Speaker, if such events, God forbid, happens in this republic, we should have a legislative intervention on how we can do such or handle such matters. Mr. Speaker, it's sad that years from 98 up to now, many Kenyans who are victims of bomb blast 98 here in Nairobi, in U.S. Embassy, has yet to be compensated. Even in Nandi, Mr. Speaker, we also have victims of the same. I want to appeal, and if this to enrich, I want to call upon the committee, Mr. Speaker, sir, to continue listening to many stakeholders so that by the time they write their report, Mr. Speaker, they are able to give us the true picture, legislative and policy. Mr. Speaker, also I expect them to visit, and I saw in their timetable to visit the United States of America and also meet the United States of America Senate, and have comparison because apparently the comparative analysis between the U.S. Senate and us is almost similar. I wish the team, the committee very well. I know they are people of eminent personalities. We expect this extension, and by the time they table report, we'll be excited to look into the contents. And Mr. Speaker, I believe we shall be able to adopt in the House. I think what is important and the joy of every Kenyan, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the day their justice is served through not only compensation but apology from the American government to the victims. Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks, I beg to support and wish the committee well under the stewardship of the Senator of Machakos, Kavaa Mama, Senator Agnes Kavindu, and the team all the best. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will be brief. I am a member of this committee, Mr. Speaker, and I arise to support this motion to extend the time for another 45 days. Mr. Speaker, under the leadership of our chair, Senator Mudhama, we've gathered a number of stakeholders. We've been able to meet the victims of this bomb blast. We were able to meet various stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Health, that is, we saw the CS and the team, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and many other departments, Mr. Speaker. We still have a number of stakeholders that we need to engage so that, Mr. Speaker, you are able, therefore, to come back to the House with a very comprehensive report. Mr. Speaker, remember, these are Kenyans who have suffered for a very long time. They have not been addressed in terms of the challenges they are facing. There are those whose children have not been able to go to school. They are orphans, they are widows, they are widowers. And Mr. Speaker, it is not a situation we want to come and bring, or rather bring a report here, which is not complete and comprehensive. So, Mr. Speaker, the extension is really justifiable. We need also, as said by a colleague here, to go to America. We are already planning to have a session with the Senate and of the US, so that, Mr. Speaker, we look at the legal framework in that country. Because the challenge we have is that there is no legal framework that enables the government of the US to pay the victims of this bomb blast. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a friend country to the US, and we wanted also to use that relationship, which is cordial, between Kenya and US, Mr. Speaker, to at least be able to push this agenda so that, Mr. Speaker, we get these Kenyans compensated, and they have been suffering for the last, from 1998 up to now, Mr. Speaker. It is indeed a very, very sad situation. Mr. Speaker, we have had governments. The government of, say, Moi, which this situation arose when he was the president. Kibaki came, 10 years, Mr. Speaker. Uhuru Kenyatta came in again, 10 years. William Ruto now is leading us. So, Mr. Speaker, it is a situation that's really been ignored and neglected for a very long time. And I want to thank my chair here, because it is our own initiative, Mr. Speaker, to raise this issue. And I think it is a moment for this House, Mr. Speaker, to give this committee reasonable time, 45 days, so that we comprehensively conclude these investigations and come back to the House. And, Mr. Speaker, this House also will be counted as the House that was able to rise up and deal with the situation that Kenyans have suffered, those who got, who became victims of the bomb blast. So, Mr. Speaker, I support, and I believe we're going to come back to the House with a very, very, very comprehensive report for posterity of our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me, in supporting this motion, to use the opportunity to congratulate my sister, Kibeti Kabintu. When Senator started this initiative, little did she know, Mr. Speaker, that the industry was going to catapult her right to the top of the imaginations, not just of many Kenyans, but indeed of the world. This was not a Kenyan problem. It was twin bombing. One happened in Dar es Salaam and the one here in Nairobi. And the rest of the world was rocked by this kind of unreasonableness of people who had lost their minds. I therefore want to agree with those who have spoken before me that the time they're not asking for is not time to waste time, but it is time for them to put the house in order, We should give them. I want to urge you, do not end this exercise until you go to Capitol Hill in the United States of America. They owe us a hearing. Somebody has to tell them the real voice of the leadership of this country on how our people suffered, on how our people died, on how generations that will come after them will always remain wounded by what befell our country in 1998. Mr. Speaker, sir, I support.
Thank you, Senator Boni Halwale. I don't seem to have any other member who is willing to contribute to the motion, and I therefore call upon Senator Mudama to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to reply. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the members of this House who have contributed to this additional extension of days for this motion. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we have met several stakeholders, and including the victims themselves. We've also been able to call their lawyers in the United States of America. They came to Kenya, we met them. They gave them their background, and Mr. Speaker, I must say that it's a very emotional situation when these victims, survivors appear before us. They cry until we cry, all of us. Those wounds are very fresh in them. It's like it happened yesterday. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank this House, the Liaison Committee also, for the extension, and the business SBC for granting us this 45 days. I want to assure this House, as I said right from the beginning, we will not leave any stone unturned until we see the compensation of our people. Mr. Speaker, I move. I beg to lay. Thank you. I beg to reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mudama. Pursuant to Standing Order 841, I make the determination that the matter does not affect counties, and therefore, honorable members, I put the question that, aware that at the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 27 June 2023, the Senate resolved to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the compensation to the Kenyan victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi, and report back to the House within 3 months of its establishment. Realizing that the 3-month period lapsed on 30th September 2023, and owing to the magnitude of the work involved, the committee have not completed its work within that duration. Noting the need for more time to carry out a thorough inquiry into this matter, now therefore, the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of the ad hoc committee for a further period not exceeding for 45 days of its resolution, and to table its final report in the Senate on or before 10th November 2023. Honorable members, will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. We may now call the next order.
Order number 13, the County Government's Revenue Raising Process Bill, Senate Bills number 22 of 2023, second reading.
What's your point of order, Senator Cherge?
Mr. Speaker, did you, under Speaker's rules and the conduct of the House, did you see the senior counsel, esteemed member of National Dialogue Committee, walked in casually while you were reading your directions on the matter? Mr. Speaker, can you direct the distinguished member of National Dialogue Committee and the Senator of Nyamira to go back and obey, and he should have frozen. I expected a lot from him, Mr. Speaker, because he's a ranking member, to have frozen when he realized that you are on your feet. Mr. Speaker, can you call him out of order?
Well, Senator Cherargei, I did, of course, indeed notice, and I want to give Senior Counsel Okongo Morgan an opportunity to.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I first want to profusely apologize to you and to the House. I've had a very, very long day. I've been at the National Dialogue since morning at 9, not had tea, not lunch. So at my age, my sugar is really down. So when I walked in, I didn't notice. I think I'm also getting bad eyesight. I didn't notice that you're on the chair. I think you can confirm, Chair, you are before us at lunch hour. So I apologize to the Chair. It was not deliberate, it was not intentional, and I tender my unreserved apology. This is the first time our standing orders have escaped me, and I want to thank my colleague for pointing that out to me. I apologize, and I assure Chair, Mr. Speaker, sir, this will not be repeated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Okongo Mogeni, I want to confirm that indeed I appeared before your committee, and it was actually during our lunch hour. We made a commitment before you, especially with regard to time, because we could notice that the sugar levels at that time of the committee members as well as those who were presenting before you was down. I do know very well Senator Okongo Mogeni as a senior counsel. My experience with him for the time I've been in the House has been that of a member without reproach. And I therefore accept your apology without conditions. Apology accepted. Thank you. Honorable members, we will defer order number 13, that is the County Government's Revenue Raising Process Bill, Senate Bills number 22 of 2023, to the next session. And I call upon the clerk to call the next order.
Order number 14, the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, National Assembly Bills number 23 of 2023, second reading.
Senator Boni Halwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to move the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill of 2023. Mr. Speaker, this is a bill which I hope will establish an act of Parliament to provide for the additional allocations to the county governments for the year 2023-24 financial year, and state the responsibilities of the national government and the county governments pursuant to such allocations and to, Mr. Speaker, connected purposes. Mr. Speaker, the House will recall that when we were passing the bill for the division of revenue, very many people who do not know how devolution works, especially from our good side of the minority, some of them who continue to refuse to read, were calling us names that we were denying county governments money. Far from it. Those who are champions of devolution, and the majority are on the government side, knew that there was no bill in this House for allocating money to counties. The bill which was before the House was for dividing money between the national and the county government, and we needed to do it responsibly so that both governments continue functioning. We did it and gave 385.6 billion shillings, and I'm glad that, Mr. Speaker, the time has now come for us to give more money. If this bill goes through, Mr. Speaker, the county governments will now enjoy an excess of over 400 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. I therefore want to request colleagues that we support this bill, and it is important that as we support the bill, we tell members of the public that additional grants shall be agreed upon by the National Assembly and this Senate during the consideration of the budget, were agreed on during the consideration of budget policy statement. Mr. Speaker, much of these conditional allocations to each county government from the national government share of revenue for the financial year 2023-24 shall be as set out in first schedule, which I'm inviting members to visit and see. And Mr. Speaker, these conditional allocations financed by proceeds of the loans or grants from development partners to each county government for the financial year 2023-24 shall be as set out in column P of the third schedule. It's important that members of the public should know that this comprises of conditional allocations financed by the World Bank, credit to finance agriculture, a rural inclusive growth project as set out in column B. It also includes conditional grants, allocations financed by the International Development Agency of the World Bank. It also includes conditional allocations financed by the World Bank, loan to finance the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project, and further includes conditional allocations from the World Bank, credit to finance water and sanitation program, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, further sources of this money include conditional allocations from the grant by Danida to finance primary health care, whose debate is actually ongoing, as we did in Turkana last week, Mr. Speaker. Further funds are coming from conditional allocations financed by the credit from the World Bank to finance locally led climate action program. Mr. Speaker, it also includes conditional allocations financed by a loan from the government of Sweden to finance agriculture sector development support program. And further, by conditional grants financed by both loan and grant from the German Development Bank to finance drought resilience program in northeastern Kenya. It also includes conditional allocations financed by credit from the World Bank to finance emergency locust response project. Mr. Speaker, we also have conditional financing by a loan from the World Bank to finance the Kenya Informal Settlement Improvement Project. And further, Mr. Speaker, we have conditional allocations from proceeds of loans from the International Fund for Agriculture Development, also known as IFAD, to finance Kenya Livestock Commercialization Project. And Mr. Speaker, we have conditional allocations from proceeds of the Loan Fund for Agricultural Business Development Project to set out in column M. Mr. Speaker, sir, finally but not least, part of this money is conditional allocations amounting to Kenya shillings 6,168,700,500 financed by proceeds from the World Bank loan for the county climate resilience program. Mr. Speaker, having set out where this money is coming from, It's my pleasure, in conclusion, in moving this very important bill, to inform members of the public that out of this industry, we are now freeing 15,816,000,000 shillings to empower our county governments. I would like, once again, to remind governors that this money that we are today working so hard to ensure that they have is not meant to be at their disposal for self-aggrandizement. It is supposed to be for development. You have seen, out of these allocations, several programs that are addressing the problems that afflict the semi-arid and arid areas. Having come fresh from Turkana, I hope the governor of Turkana is watching this debate. He should make sure that he uses his allocation of these billions to start a structured program of rolling out availability of clean water for the people of Turkana. The shame we saw in Turkana, where little children, as young as 5, 6 years, they stand by the roadside, they wave you down, and when you stop, they start telling you a joke, a joke. So when you ask what do they mean by a joke, they are telling you, how are you, peace be with you. Little do you realize that they are making those emotional remarks because they want you to give them water. The moment you give out a bottle of mineral water, you see their faces light up. This must stop. Mr. Speaker, this House must refuse. In the last 10 years, when Governor Nonok, my best friend, was the governor of Turkana, this House, through devolved funds, enabled his government to access over 100 billion shillings. 100 billion shillings. And that is 100 billion shillings before you include the additional allocation from all these bodies. This money, our good friend and governor presided over it. And children of the poor in Turkana, children whose parents have no idea that we exist in Nairobi for their own sake. We owe it to them. With our fat English from our big education and our small English from our own commitment to equity, we owe it to them that we call that monster called corruption that is killing the poor in counties to an end. Mr. Speaker, one day, President Ruto has broken the glass ceiling. A chicken seller has become the president of Kenya. We want to see 10 years on how a chicken seller will turn the economy of this country, and we hope and pray that when the chicken seller exits, he'll hand over to a son of a Changa brewer so that we can change this country. Mr. Speaker, with those remarks, you know, there are many. Mungatana is on my right. I see General Gay, son of Mr. Speaker, sir. Yes, hustler. The other one of cattle was slip of the tongue, son of a hustler. Mr. Speaker, I know with these remarks, the distinguished senator of Mandera, immediate former governor of Mandera, a captain, Mr. Speaker, a party leader, Mr. Speaker, the only sitting billionaire who is a senator. Will be very happy to see this bill go through, because this is what he works for in our committee all the time. With those many remarks, I invite Senator Karen Nyamu to second my bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this bill...
Senator Nyamu, just take your seat to facilitate the Honorable Senator Boni to formally move the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My apologies. Senator Nyamu shot out of her seat so fast that I failed to conclude. And in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, with those remarks, I invite Senator Karim Nyamu to second the bill, and I move the bill.
Senator Karen, now you may take the mic to second the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill, the County Additional Allocation Bill of 2023, is yet another clear indication of the commitment of the Kenya Kwanza government to entrench devolution in this country. Because this bill comes barely 3 months since His Excellency, the President, William Samoei Ruto, signed into law the County Allocation Bill, the County Equalization Fund Bill. But, Mr. Speaker, this money, and this is a lot of money, it might not be used or utilized as planned if the governors are not patriotic enough and if they do not commit to the roles that they are elected for and make sure that this money is utilized for projects that are for the betterment of all Kenyans. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to remind my Senate colleagues of the role that we have of oversight to make sure that devolution is working and to be diligent to ensure that this money is utilized in a proper manner that it is meant for. And Mr. Speaker, as I support this bill, as a member of the Nairobi delegation, I still wish to register of the method, my complaints on the method and the formula used to allocate funds each and every time. And Mr. Speaker, just as like the Equalization Fund, this bill is no exception that Nairobi suffers an unfair formula. In the first schedule, Mr. Speaker, Nairobi has been allocated 239 million, with a whopping 5 million residents in Nairobi, with 85 wards, and then on the other hand, a county like Kilifi, with 1.5 million residents and 35 wards, has been allocated 359 million, Mr. Speaker. Lamu, with 10 wards and 150,000 residents, has been allocated 287 million, Mr. Speaker. Are we being fair to Nairobi? I have said here again, Nairobi is home to some of the biggest slums. The deplorable state of these Nairobi residents keeps being ignored by legislators and policymakers. And I want to call upon the Nairobi leadership, led by our governor, Governor Sakaja, our senator, Senator Sifuna, and we join hands with other leaders and change this narrative for Nairobi once and for all. Because the assumption that just because Nairobi is a seat of government, or just because it is a capital city, the assumption that Nairobi is rich is wrong, and it is a misrepresentation of our people, because majority of Nairobi is slum dwellers. And just because Nairobi contributes the highest to the GDP does not mean that we ignore the Nairobians who are living beyond the poverty level, Mr. Speaker. And with this many or few remarks, I second.
Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that the County Government Additional Allocation Bill, National Assembly Bills number 23 of 2023 be now read a second time. I'll call upon the senators who have requested to contribute to this bill. Let me start with the chairman of the committee, Senator Ali Roba. Senator Roba, proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is a bill.
Senator Cherargei, what is your point of order?
No, Mr. Speaker, I'm not challenging anything, but you know, we can build traditions. I thought it would have been wise and neat. I'm not saying it is anchored in the law or standing order for the chair, since it is his baby, to listen to contributions of members and maybe put a few things in perspective. I'm not saying it is a must, but requesting the party leader and the chair maybe to hold resources, listen to our thinking, then maybe when he presents it, he can still answer or clarify a few issues. That is my thinking. I am not saying it is in the standing order, just a request.
That's noted, Senator Samson Cherargei, but you will note that this bill has been sponsored by the leader of majority, not the chairperson, Senator Ali Roba. So allow Senator Roba to contribute. I believe Senator Boni Halwale, who moved the motion on behalf of the majority leader, will listen through the contributions by members for his reply at the end of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you for informing my colleague, Senator Cherargei, that the bill is sponsored by the majority leader. So I am only contributing as a member, just like you, despite the Committee of Finance processing the bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to support this bill. The County Government Additional Allocation Bill 23, National Assembly Bill, that's the County Government Additional Allocation Bill 2023, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2023. This bill allocates a whopping 56.18 billion to county governments, which is very, very important contribution in the light of a lot of resource constraints that is happening. Remember, when Division of Revenue bill was getting passed, the discussion was all about that money being too little for county governments. And as such, this 56 billion shilling will go a long way in complementing the budgets of the county governments conditionally in line with the grant providers such as World Bank, national government, and the rest. Mr. Speaker, sir, the 56 billion in this bill comprises of additional financial allocation from the national government share of revenue amounting to 15.18 billion and conditional allocation to the county government from court fines and window royalties amounting to 3.043 billion, conditional allocation from proceeds of loans and grants from development partners totaling to a whopping 3.192 billion, and national government expenditure on development. Mr. Speaker, sir, the conditional grant also includes the conditional grant for aggregated industrial parks program amounting to 4.5 billion. This program is planned to be undertaken in 18 counties. Initially, it was envisaged and planned for the 47 counties to benefit from this fund at the rate of about 100 million shillings per county. However, when the preliminary engagements were done between the county government and the national government, it was determined that 100 million will be too little to do any meaningful industrial park program. And as such, the decision was reviewed to start with the first 18 counties that appeared to be extremely ready to pick up where instead of 100 million, 250 million was conditioned to be allocated to these 18 counties with a condition that these 18 counties match up the money with the 29 county governments. The remaining 29 county governments will be allocated similar amounts in the subsequent financial year, the coming financial year. Mr. Speaker, sir, the role of the Senate is a strengthening of devolution, protection of devolution among the legislative representation and oversight role that we undertake. This release of this 56 billion shilling to county government is a very critical function of the Senate. As you already are aware, Mr. Speaker, that the first quarter of the financial year has already lapsed. And further delay in approving this additional allocation is going to really put the utilization of the fund from the donors and the conditions that have been assigned to these funds and the National Treasury being able to release the funds in time. It's going to make it very difficult for the implementation of the fund and either lead to lack of release of funds from the National Treasury to the beneficiary county governments, or the funds being released too late for county governments to be able to absorb the funds in line with the conditions that are required. As I would like to urge our colleagues in the Senate to really prioritize the conclusion of this bill as a matter of urgency. It has already gone through the National Assembly, and it has undergone some amendment under the committee as recommended, because some funds that were left out have been included, which means the bill will have to go for negotiation between the National Assembly and the Senate, delaying the process even further. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I give that information, I beg to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ali Roba. Senator Samson Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is to support this bill, that is the National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2023, the County Government Additional Allocation Bill 2023. Mr. Speaker, I hope in future the way we supersonic speed we process the National Assembly bills, I hope our sister house or our brother house would also be processing our bills with the same supersonic speed, so that we don't have differences in terms of processing the bills. Or, Mr. Speaker, I think I want to thank the committee for coming and looking at the bill. I think these are the issues we have been raising, and many people have been asking what is the role of devolution. Mr. Speaker, I think for me, these are great milestones, because in the past, we had not ring-fenced most of the funds that were going to County Revenue Fund. I'm happy that in line with Article 202, sub-Article 2 of the Constitution of Kenya, it talks that above revenue funds, the county government may give additional allocations from the national government share of the revenue, either conditionally or unconditionally. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say this is very critical. When we passed 370 billion in the last financial year, many of our colleagues on the minority side, which unfortunately they are not present in the House, or they are following wherever they are, they complain a lot. And you know, they were being selective in terms of telling our people, senators cut down the allocation to counties. Yet, this is way and above the revenue that we are giving to counties. And from looking at what we have allocated through conditional in the next financial year of 2023-2024, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the first schedule, counties in 2023-2024, for example, counties will get a total of 15.816 billion, which is a lot of money, Mr. Speaker, that will go to counties. This is very important, and I can see my county, Nandi, and I'm happy, and I want to assure the great people of Nandi that I'm taking a whooping above additional of 503,429,010. and I will not entertain any pilferage of this money at whatever cost, Mr. Speaker. And you know, when I say Nandi is headquarters of corruption, many people doubt it. But I'm happy that investigative agencies have moved with gusto to ensure they ensure financial impropriety does not become order of the day in my county. So 503 million plus through additional funds to Nandi County. Speaker, we hope to see many things that will change, including Narik, Danida, these additional funds, Mr. Speaker, because as we debate, we have obligation to teach our viewers and Kenyans and people where we represent, be it Kakamega County, Mandera, Mr. Speaker, be it Nairobi, and across 47 counties, including your county, Bomet County, that additional allocation funds means additional resources allocated to county government from the national government share of revenue in form of loans and grants from development partners. So when you see Danida, Mr. Speaker, you see Narik, you see JICA, you see any, even through World Bank, Kenya Support Program in terms of improvement, Mr. Speaker, is what we call additional funds that are being taken as Article 202, Sub-Article 2, which is way and above the normal revenue allocation that we give to counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is very important because these 15 billion, and out of 15 billion, 5 or 3 million plus will go to Nandi County. It is important because it will continue to support agriculture, to support medical aspects, to support any other that are given, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy the presidential climate agenda has been captured very well, Mr. Speaker. You remember less than a month ago, we had what we call African Climate Summit that was world-class, and the president climate agenda is pushing in ensuring that we plant more than 15 billion trees in this republic, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and therefore it is very important that counties, and I want to agree with the mover of the motion, that this one does not form basis of stealing or privileging our resources, Mr. Speaker, or stealing from any format, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we want to challenge counties to perform. I think as we have a conversation, we are now doing more than 10 years, Mr. Speaker, since devolution from 2013 to now began. What do we celebrate about, Mr. Speaker? You know, there is a song, reggae, that says, when you look outside the window, do you see anything to smile about? And Mr. Speaker, when you speak about, Mr. Speaker, they say when you look outside the window, do you see anything to smile about, Mr. Speaker? And you had the red who was killed and shot, the reggae burning sphere, and the maestro of reggae, our brother, is it Bob Marley or the South African gentleman, I'm forgetting the name. He said when, Lucky Dube, when you see there is more prisons being built as opposite to the schools, then, Mr. Speaker, there is a problem. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, 10 years down the line, and paraphrase that reggae song, do you see anything to smile in Bomet? Do I see anything to smile in Nandi County? For me, I do not. I see only a few billionaires who have plundered and pilfered the county to the lowest level. When you work, Mr. Speaker, and I see county governments, they were complaining the other day about health being reversed. They are doing nothing. In Nandi County, virtually there is no even Piriton. I know in your region there is a song that has been sung about Piriton, which means something else or something that lulls you into sleeping. Mr. Speaker, you can't get even Panadol, even basic, what we call minor surgeries, the aesthetic, the few things. I know it is similar situation in Kakamega because we have been hearing our majority whip complaining about the medical services. For example, even in Nandi, in June 2023, total 175 million went into recurrent expenditure. This was disbursement from control of budget, and more than 310 million was given to development. Mr. Speaker, El Nino is beginning across the country. There is no road that is passable today in Nandi as we talk. Feeder roads that are managed by county. And you know, Nandi, Mr. Speaker, we are producing maize. That maize must be brought to Nairobi to ensure cost of living comes down. The president has done well. He has given us fertilizer. He has given us incentives as farmers. But the problem, we cannot get our crop from the farm to the towns to ensure places like Mandera like other places far-flung who do not have benefit of maize, Mr. Speaker, are able to access because our roads, especially feeder roads that are being managed by county government of Nandi, are not passable. And I saw even a story, I think in one of the NTV, a story was being run that the people around in Nandi, not Nandi, Stintred constituency were complaining that their roads are impassable. Yet they want to access markets, they want to access, take their crop like cane. You know, Mr. Speaker, we are part of nucleus of sugarcane. And I'm happy I've seen the majority leader through the Senate whip, Senator Obone Khalwale, will come with a sugar bill. We are part of that nucleus, Mr. Speaker. Yet we can't access to deliver crop, Mr. Speaker. So I want to ask, you know, some of us, Mr. Speaker, we are at pains. Sometimes we are not sure whether to support more funds to Mashinani, because every time you go to a function on weekends, when you try and tell people that I have brought this much of amount, people will look like you are an angel, that you are the new stranger in Jerusalem, because they don't feel the money, Mr. Speaker. It is very unfortunate. I wish one day as a senator, when you go home in the weekend or during recess and said, I brought money for feeder roads, people will clap and say, the road you are using is the money that was made you brought in Nairobi. I wish one day, Mr. Speaker, when you walk to Kapsabet County Referral Hospital, is no longer only a signature to access mortuaries, but to give life to many people of Nandi. Say that when you walk in when you are unwell, you walk out when you are well. Not when you are walking when unwell, you get one of the mambo ni matatu in what the president espoused a few weeks ago, Mr. Speaker. That is my prayer. I look for one day you will meet a student or a child, and they will tell you because of the bursary senator that you push for additional allocation. That's why I'm going to school. I look for a day through the NARIC programs that are being run through the agriculture funders. Mr. Speaker, you can walk to Mili Cooling Plant somewhere in Nandi, in Belekenya, in Kabiyet, in Kechek, and you walk in that places and you greet farmers and they tell you, Senator, courtesy of additional funds that you pass with your colleagues, and that's why we have this Mili Cooling Plant in this area, Mr. Speaker. That is my prayer. That is the future of devolution, Mr. Speaker, and that is why EACC, the tragic side of devolution has been the soft underbelly of corruption. Mr. Speaker, as my brother Senator Khalwala has alluded to Turkana, and as the Committee Public Accounts, we have issued directions, and the necessary agencies have picked the matter of over 100 billion that were allocated to Turkana, but they are not foreseeable, Mr. Speaker, and the majority whip has captured. As a committee where I deputize, or as the vice chair of County Public Accounts, we have ceased of the matter of Turkana, Mr. Speaker, and we have given directions. And we shall not hesitate, even Kakamega, where we find culpability, we shall not hesitate, Mr. Speaker. Even in Tana River, even in the Mandera, even anywhere across the country, because our work is to protect the interest of this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the third point that I would want to make is that these additional funds, let us use it, Mr. Speaker. I would wish to appeal, this is my advice to counties, let us tailor-made the money we are getting for specific functions. For example, Nandi, when we get these additional funds, and Mr. Speaker, I want to say this, especially on the issue of Kenya's support infrastructural program through World Bank, and I don't know whether Senator, Governor, a party leader, chairperson, you know, there is a song that they say, Mr. Speaker, here comes the conqueror, the lion. So, so Mr. Speaker, we want, maybe during his time as the governor, I don't know whether they had the benefit of World Bank support through Kenya settlement infrastructural programs. Mr. Speaker, I want to show, and I want to ask World Bank also to be very keen. Because in Kapsabet town, we got some amount in the last financial year that was meant for improvement. Can you believe in Kapsabet town, the capital city, not the capital headquarters of Nandi, you are stuck because there are still impassable roads within Kapsabet town. And these are small roads, Mr. Speaker. We were given money by World Bank to build footpaths. And I know, Senator Boni Khalwale, you pass Kapsabet when you are going to Kakamega. Those roads have been washed away by rain. Because of the substandard work, Mr. Speaker, that pathway is so narrow that two dogs cannot pass, let alone human beings, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask these partners that they put in place evaluation and monitoring unit. And I want to challenge Senator Roba, because he has been a governor before, that outside this issue of allocating and processing bills, can you advise the Senate on how we can effectively monitor the resources that we give to these people, especially through allocations, Mr. Speaker? Because we only discuss about revenue that is allocated, audited revenue that is allocated, the 15%. And Mr. Speaker, you know, personally, I have proposed, and you know, Mr. Speaker, in a point of relevance, I submitted to the memorandum, to the National Dialogue Committee, Mr. Speaker. I know there was machismo and issues of the term limit and whatever, but inside my earth-shaking proposal to National Dialogue Committee, which they declined for me to appear because they knew I will tell the Kenyans the truth, I proposed an increment from 15% to 40% to counties, because I want more resources to go to Bomet, so that the governor of Bomet and the county leadership of Bomet can perform more, Mr. Speaker. I proposed. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I even wrote to the National Dialogue Committee, even this house to be made the upper house because it's a bicameral system, and ensure, Mr. Speaker, we are given powers to veto bills, so that we avoid this drama of bringing the bills. I saw they rejected our amendment the other day. We can do an amendment. I hope they will not reject, because Senator Roba said there's an amendment that have been made in place, Mr. Speaker. These are issues that I raised in that memorandum that I would have expected the National Dialogue Committee to drink from my wisdom that I was oozing on those proposals, Mr. Speaker. And even finally, I was proposing that we choose. And you know, Senator Kalwale is one of the senior most, and Senator Mungatana. Let us, if we want to go parliamentary system, let's go. If we want to go presidential system, let's go. Or we want to go a mongrel called hybrid system, let us agree. And some of the proposals that as I was making, Mr. Speaker, was into standard devolution. Leave alone the issue of 7 years. And you know, 7 years was good because, Mr. Speaker, you finish your 5 years, start 7 years, another 7 years, then you can stay 19 years. I know the chicken seller is in the office, and the Changa brewer, son of Changa brewer, wants to come in, and also the Hada from the northern Kenya, and all of us want to that direction. They should be happy that Cherargei is doing a very good thing, because I'm giving you 19 years in power. Mr. Speaker, finally, on the aspect, as I conclude, I want to commend the committee. I think the chairperson and the finance committee should be given the committee of the year. I think there are many, this is a committee that does a lot of work outside the Public Accounts Committee, where I'm the vice chair. So we take number one, then the finance committee takes number two as the committee of the year, Mr. Speaker. Or we go draw or equal, because the process that they are processing is very important, Mr. Speaker. So I want to commend, and I'm happy that Senator Mutinda is here, the vice chair, my brother Senator Kalwale. You can see these are eminent individuals, Mr. Speaker, who have ensured that the processing. So I want to ask also on the amendments that you have proposed through the chair and through the speaker and the majority whip, please follow through. Do not be blackmailed. Do not be cowed by National Assembly. I have handled National Assembly in the last session until we brought them to this size, Mr. Speaker. I want to tell them, don't be intimidated. Duale, who is the current CS of Defense, he was the majority leader. He tried to intimidate some of us. We told him the price of intimidation, fear, and blackmail, the price has fallen down. So I want to challenge, let us not fall. If they are ready, Mr. Speaker, we have even taken these matters to court, and courts have pronounced the Senate as a role in budget-making process. It is not only on conditional grants and division of revenue, even the budget-making process, Mr. Speaker. So I want to challenge our committee, be on the lead when you go to mediation. Don't give even an inch. Protect the Senate at all costs. And all of us will stand solidly behind you. With those very many remarks, Mr. Speaker, so that I allow my colleagues to comment, allow me to support, and with the amendments that the committee have proposed, and wish well the committee, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you.
Senator Cherargei, as you take your seat today, you must have rehearsed a bit about music. I thought I could remind you that Bomet County is the home of music. And therefore, among the songs which among the songs which you made reference to is one from Bomet. You definitely will. Senator Mungatana Danson Buya.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to make some comments on the bill. First of all, on the outset, I want to say that I support this bill. And Mr. Speaker, I think we should all support this bill because it speaks to the plans that the national government and the partners that we have for development will, and the framework for the money to go to our counties as it is proposed in this bill. Mr. Speaker, there are just a few things that maybe the whip who is the sponsor of this bill can help us understand. And then I hope Kalwale will not be misled not to listen to what I'm saying, because I needed some answers. Mr. Speaker, I'm not a finance person, but does it make sense, any sense at all, for every county to be disbursed an equal amount of 124,723,403 shillings for leasing of medical equipment as a conditional grant, and then every county again to pay back that money for leasing? I want someone to explain to me why that money is being released to the counties and then it's supposed to pay the single person who is leasing those medical equipments. Why can this money just be paid directly? Why should we have the same amount taken to the county revenue fund for each county, and then at the same time is taken back for paying of the medical lease equipment? And then we need to also question ourselves. We have had a lot of complaints from governors about this leasing of medical equipment. And in fact, a lot of negative pronouncements have been made around the leasing of this medical equipment. I understand as a lawyer that there must have been an agreement signed somewhere. Some of the governors have come out to say that this was coerced, and some of them even had refused to sign, and then later on they signed. I want to know that if indeed there was an existing contract, isn't there an exit clause? Because every good contract drafted by good lawyers, there must be an exit clause. So if this exit clause exists, why can't we exit this process? Because it seems that some counties, their needs were not factored. You know, maybe we need more medical personnel, but we are being forced to lease equipment, and from a certain company. And this was something that we inherited from the previous administration. My own comment is to ask that before we just push money to support a contract that is so unpopular, and a contract that for some counties it was coerced upon them, to relook at this whole mechanism and see whether we can reshape it. If money is coming to Tana River, that 124 million to our hospitals, then it should come to deal with issues that are affecting us, not to leasing equipment that some of which we don't have personnel to operate, and the equipment stays without it being utilized, and we still have to pay for it. Mr. Speaker, I think this is something that I'd like the majority to explain. Mr. Speaker, the aggregated industrial park, every county has been given 250 million, but not all counties. The counties that have started, that is the 4.5 billion in total, have been allocated. Mr. Speaker, I see from the first schedule that not all counties were given this money. Maybe we'll need some explanation, because when we go back home and we are told maybe the neighboring county has been given 250 million to develop the aggregated industrial park, but yours has not, and there's no explanation that has not been given, Mr. Speaker, this promotes inequitable feeling amongst the residents of various counties that were not allocated the 250 million under column D. Mr. Speaker, there is the conditional grant for provision of fertilizer subsidy program. I would be very interested in the mover of this motion, the sponsor of this motion, to explain why a county like Tana River, 35 square kilometers, Mr. Speaker, and receives or is allocated 15 million or thereabouts, and a county like Nairobi, which is pretty small, is allocated 14 million. I fail to understand. The reason being that, Mr. Speaker, this fertilizer subsidy program, when the fertilizers are brought to the county headquarters, the arrangements for transporting this fertilizer to the point where they are consumed by the registered farmers is not there. Mr. Speaker, when you look at it, it will then mean that you are equating the transportation costs of Tana River to Nairobi. Because if we're getting about 15 million and you're seeing Nairobi getting 14 million under the fertilizer subsidy program, it doesn't make sense. And so, Mr. Speaker, I think when we are moving these bills, we need proper explanations. Yes, we want the money, but let it, the logical explanations run so that we can understand what these bills are all about. Mr. Speaker, when you look at court fines, the column and under court fines for the financial year 2022-2023, the allocation, which is supposed to come from the national government, for Tana River County, Mr. Speaker, that column of financial year 2022-2023, it is being marked dash, which means the allocation for court fines is nil. And this goes for several other counties, Mr. Speaker. There's Baringo, there's Bomet, there's Bungoma, there's Busia. You see several counties that were not given anything under allocations for court fines. Mr. Speaker, yet in reality, there are courts in Tana River, they are levying fines, and these fines are being taken to the consolidated fund, and the consolidated fund is supposed to allocate these monies back to the county revenue fund. Now, it does not make sense, for a number of counties, Vihiga, West Pokot, Tharaka Nithi, Tana River, Taita Taveta, and so many others, not being given any allocation back from the consolidated fund at the national level. And yet, we are levying court fines in our various counties. So we need a bit of explanation and seriousness when we are doing this work. You don't just come throwing figures that are not making explanatory understanding. Look at this, Mr. Speaker, when you're looking at the allocation for mineral royalties. Mineral royalties, we get 10,623,000 in Tana River County. And yet, Mr. Speaker, when you look at the amount of gypsum that is mined in Tana River County, Mr. Speaker, this cannot reflect the 20% value, surely. So we want proper explanations on some of these things, Mr. Speaker. Gypsum is a highly valuable mineral, and it is the one that makes the critical component when it comes to making manufacturing cement. So, Mr. Speaker, we support the bill, but there are things that need, illumination, explanation, so that we can move on the same direction. Mr. Speaker, we want to thank the allocation of 121 million for the completion of the county headquarters in Tana River County. Mr. Speaker, Tana River County is one of the counties that has not been able to complete the construction of the county headquarters until, I hope, after this allocation. Mr. Speaker, I want to use the floor of this House to tell the county government that it is time that we move away from the list of shame. Because how is it that so many other counties have finalized with this business of a county headquarters? You go to counties, and when you are welcomed to meet, you are doing maybe benchmarking, and you see how they are looking like and how your county looks like. Mr. Speaker, it is a crying shame, and we need this money utilized properly and finalize this business as soon as possible. Mr. Speaker, the final one on this bill. When you look at this bill, Mr. Speaker, there is the allocation for the program called Kenya Marine Fisheries and Socio-Economic Development KMSD program. Mr. Speaker, just now, we have had the member for Turkana County, the Honorable Senator Lomenen, talk about the potential of blue economy at Lake Turkana. And yet, Mr. Speaker, when you look, Turkana has been given nil allocation for this program. We have just come from there, and we can see that lake is as big, if not bigger, than so many other water bodies around Kenya. I want to use the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker, to urge that fairness be part and parcel of our legislation process making. Why would you deny a county like Turkana, which has such a huge lake body, not even a single coin of this fisheries, Kenya Marine Fisheries Socio-Economic Development Program? Not even 1 shilling, Mr. Speaker. We talked about a lot of, segregation in terms of development. And we have talked about this many times, Mr. Speaker. And, when you are allocating money to this area, you are not allocating to the other area. And yet the potential for economic development in that area is as good as other areas. Then, Mr. Speaker, we are continuing to promote the sessional number 10 of 1965, that economic paper that promoted unequal development within this country. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say one more thing before I allow also other senators to say their bit, that Tana River County, Mr. Speaker, has a very large coast, and the potential for blue economy is very large. However, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the allocation, I don't know what factors these people use to give us little money, and then they give more money to other coastal counties. It is not understandable, because when you are being given 33 million and another county is being given 100 million, while we wish them well as they develop and do what they need to do to get their counties moving, it is not fair, and the explanations are not there to say why some counties should get three times more from the same program of blue economy, while other counties are being denied the same fund. we are in the same country, and we are the same people, the same citizens, and we have all the same coastline. It is not a fair thing. So, Mr. Speaker, my prayer is that as the government whip, who is holding brief for the leader of majority, wakes up to reply, he can shed some light on some of these things, because we would want to work together. For a very long time, some of us have watched unequal development in this country. And we will not keep quiet. We'll keep on saying that this nation needs to be fair to all of us. It is not right what happens. Every time there are pilot projects, you see the pilot projects, it is certain counties and not others. And then after those pilot projects are done, the project disappears, and you're told maybe the pilot never worked. But during that time, the 5 or 6 counties benefited. They were given that money. And then our counties, where we come from, we are never in those pilot projects. We want those people in Treasury to start being serious, to start knowing that this country is bigger than Nairobi and a few other counties. We belong to the same countries, and we need to be treated fairly and equally. And I speak this, Mr. Speaker, advisedly, because I know so many of the northern counties, Mr. Speaker, have suffered the same segregation that we have suffered over long periods of time. And it's because the same people in Treasury are the ones who come with these bills and these, they never do consultations. By the time they come here, they are just telling us, oh, help us to pass this bill. But Mr. Speaker, it's the same people from the same areas. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, I want to use the floor of this House also to call for changes in that Treasury, Mr. Speaker. We want to see more people from ASAL areas being employed in Treasury. Mr. Speaker, Treasury is full of just one tribe. And it is a known fact that we know that a certain political dimension is there. They keep employing from the same area, they keep employing the same people, the same thinking, and because of the same thinking, we people who are from the northern parts of Kenya, we are not inside there when the planning is being done, when the divisions of these revenues are being planned. We are left out, Mr. Speaker. And the attitudes are the same. And when you finish this administration, the next administration, people tell you, oh, this guy has been in Treasury for long, so he knows what to do. He knows how the budget cycle goes. So again, we are left behind. Mr. Speaker, Treasury needs reforms. Treasury needs to tell us. In fact, Mr. Speaker, maybe it's time we need a clear, a clear tabling of the names of the employees in Treasury. We want to know how many people from Tana River are in Treasury, who and what positions they are holding, because maybe it will advise us why sometimes they keep on doing things that don't make sense. Mr. Speaker, I pray that fairness be part and parcel of this country. We will not keep quiet. We will keep talking until something is done. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mutinda Tabitha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do rise to support this bill. I'm the Vice Chair, Finance and Budget, and I want to agree with Senator Cherargei when he says this is one of the committees that really has quite a number of bills in Senate. And we are always proud to be able to execute our mandate as senators in regards to what is entailed. Mr. Speaker, the grants, as per the bill, I've totaled them up and they're amounting to 56 billion. And plus the 385 billion allocation year 2022-2023, we are looking at next financial year at a total of about over 440 billion allocation to the counties. Then this, Mr. Speaker, is additional. And the Senate, we pride in ensuring that we support devolution. Support devolution by ensuring that counties are able to have more funding. At the same time, they also receive the same funding timely, because it is in that timely disbursement of the same funds, then the counties are able to execute their mandate and be able to partake different roles. When you look at these funds, Mr. Speaker, they range from different aspects in terms of the fertilizer subsidy programs. We have the industrial park program, we have the medical equipment, as has been mentioned, water issues, and as you know, water and sanitation is a very critical issue, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one thing that is very clear is that these funds are also coming from the national government. You look at the first schedule, talks about conditional allocation to county government from the national government revenue. So this totals about to the first 15 billion allocation, Mr. Speaker. At the same time, we also have the unconditional allocations to county that have coming from the court fines. This is something as the finance committee, we've really deliberated with the treasury on ensuring that monies that have been collected through the courts in the different counties are remitted to the county CRF fund. And one county, that is I think the county of Laikipia, if I'm not wrong, is the only county that has been able to receive its funds. And we've really been pushing as a committee that Treasury ensures that it is disburses the other funds for the other different counties, because this money belongs to these counties. And I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, to see that Schedule 2, which amounts to 3 billion, is an allocation from the court fines and also mineral royalties. As you know, there's the allocation at 30%, and you know there's 10% also that we are still pushing that benefits the local communities. We are pushing the National Treasury. The last time we had a discussion with the same ministry, they talked about there is no clear framework as to who is the local beneficiary. But we've emphasized as a committee that the locals should be able to benefit. And I'm happy that there is that the discussion, and this amounts to, in the second schedule, that amounts to 3 billion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, also we have what we call the county allocation from proceeds of loans from, of course, the development partners for the same financial year, which, Mr. Speaker, it gives a total of now, the highest total in this allocation of about 33 billion. Now, Senator Mungatana had tried to ask and get clarity, and if Senator Mungatana would give me his ear, I do request if Senator Mungatana would give me his ear, because as I said with Senator Mungatana, I sit in the Finance Committee, and you had tried to get clarity in regards to the issue of the 124 million being allocated for the leased equipment. And I want to guide and just say that there have been agreements and individual contracts between the different counties as far as these equipments that had been leased earlier. And these monies are normally not remitted to the CRF account. These funds are paid directly from National Treasury to the agreed within the agreements that were put in place, the contract that had been put in place. So your question in terms of then why are these funds remitted to CRF, and then from CRF to the contractors, these monies are remitted directly from National Treasury. At the same time, there have been questions in terms of why then do you have different allocations? Yes, Mr. Speaker, I note my county, Nairobi County, you look at the second schedule, our allocation is about 139 million. And our numbers are very big, as you all know, being in the city. But we have other counties whose allocation is quite very high. But I also want to advise and share with colleagues that these allocations are not done by the committee. This allocation does not use the parameters that are in place, but these allocations are determined by the donors themselves. They're the ones who do the funds allocation depending on what they need to be achieved in those particular regions. As my colleagues had mentioned earlier, especially Senator Boni, we were in Turkana last week. And yes, it's a quite sad state of affairs. And I'm happy if the Committee for Park is really looking into the funds that had been earlier remitted and us being on the ground. It was a very good feeling interacting with the people and physically being on the ground to have a direct feel of what devolution is. Our major focus was also on as far as matters development were concerned. The issue of water was a very prominent issue that came about, and it's quite saddening because I'm very privileged to also sit in my other committee called the CPIC committee, which looks at the oversight, at the special funds. And then these grants are some of the funds. So I sit in a committee as finance that gives the money, and at the same time, oversight the same money in the other committee. And it is sad because Turkana has been one of the beneficiaries as far as grants are concerned. They have been able to, and I look at this allocation here, Turkana County is going to be receiving 137 million. Then you ask the simple question, why can't the governor Turkana be able to ensure he prioritizes the basic commodity, and that is water? You know, so we urge you, Senator Lomenen from Turkana, we were in your beautiful county, you welcomed us very well, and we urge kindly, because we saw the cry for the water, and we do request that you try and push for the same. I do, at this point, do second and support the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order, Senator Mandago? Although
As my point of order, Mr. Speaker, is on standing order number 105. Is it in order for Senator Mutinda to mislead this House and say Turkana has been receiving grants? I think just as a point of information, just know that equalization funds from inception has never been released to any single county. This is the first attempt. You can have money in the paper, but to have the money reach the counties, it is the first time, and we want to thank His Excellency the President, that counties have now been able to get their equitable share for the first time, timely, and all the arrears. So it is not in order for Senator Mutinda.
Yes, your point of order then has been overtaken by events because the senator has already concluded her remarks on the
Mr. Speaker, I think you deliberately missed out.
However, I believe she's been informed by your comments about the allocations and also the remittances to the counties. Boni Halwale.
Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with your ruling. But as you correctly say that she has been informed, are we sure, is this House sure that that information is accurate? Because this additional allocation, Mr. Speaker, is money from the World Bank and donor community. And we know that World Bank and donor community projects have been going on for the last 10 years. So is the senator of Washington Gishu right in his assertion, knowing that these projects have been going on? Where was the money coming from if it is not for allocation? We want to congratulate the president not on additional funds, but on the shareable revenue which the president has released for the first time. But additional allocations from the World Bank and donor communities has been flowing. In fact, for the record, in Kakamega, we have roads within the town that were done by the World Bank. So where was Oparanya getting the money? Unless, of course, the former governor, seated next to the former governor, are colluding to mislead the entire republic.
Senator Boni, take your seats. Take your seats. You know, I wouldn't allow an extra point of order, Senator Ali. I want to allow Senator Mandago to make his contributions to the bill.
Honorable Speaker, I think Alwale didn't listen to the total contribution of Senator Mutinda. If you have heard the sentence correct and you might go back the answered, you will understand where I'm coming from. That notwithstanding, Honorable Speaker, first let me start first to say that I support this bill. One, because we are sending in additional resources to the counties. Honorable Speaker, for my county, Uasin Gishu, we are going to send additional
1 billion shillings, slightly above 1 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker. But Honorable Speaker, even as we do this in this bill and support this bill, Honorable Speaker, there are a few things that I want to agree with my colleague, Senator Mungatana. One, on the issue of the managed equipment, Honorable Speaker, the additional allocation of about 5.6 billion that is meant for managed equipment, Honorable Speaker, is a figure that we still need to interrogate. Honorable Speaker, it would not be fair for this country to pay contractors and suppliers of equipment figures including for equipment they didn't supply. I speak here as a former governor of Uasin Gishu County, Honorable Speaker, and in my own county, I still have issues with the managed equipment because the number of equipment that was alleged to have been delivered to the county government of Uasin Gishu is not what we received. And yet, we were deducted money meant for the equipment. Now, money has been allocated for repairs or servicing of those contracts, again in a uniform manner, to include even equipment that was not supplied. This managed equipment, Honorable Speaker, funds, the managed equipment program is a very good program. But the way it was run and the way we are going back to adopt the same, Honorable Speaker, I don't think is going to give good value for the people of Kenya, particularly for equipment that was not supplied. And I still want to hide this house that those suppliers must actually be taken to task up to until when they supply full equipment. I think the suppliers owe counties money and they owe governments some money they need to refund for the equipment they never supplied. Honorable Speaker, I also want to agree with Senator Mungatana.
Senator Mandago, it's 6:30 p.m. and we have got to adjourn. You will have 17 minutes tomorrow to resume your contributions to the bill, and it will be in the morning session. So, honorable members, it is now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. We therefore adjourn to tomorrow, Wednesday, 4th October 2023 at 9:30 a.m.